I'm going to go around and allow everybody who to introduce themselves. We got some new faces, so this is pretty important. I'm going to start in the top left-hand corner with FaradaySpeaks.
Hello, I'm FaradaySpeaks. I run a YouTube channel called FaradaySpeaks. You can also call me Caleb. And I do work. People say that I de-radicalize people, but that's like a big misnomer, and I don't want to get into that. But I try to help people that have fallen down like extremist pathways, whether that's cults or ideologies, and just try to get them to empathize with other people. And I also work at American University in DC on a team called Peril.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And this is your first time on the podcast, so I hope you have a positive experience. Next, we're going to bring it over to LoyalLogic.
Yeah, I'm LoyalLogic. You can find me here on Twitch, Twitter. I'm just a Republican here talking shit, making fun of Dylan whenever I can.
And that is why you're always my last choice for the podcast. Next, I'm going to throw it over to Redneck.
What's cracking, everybody? This is Redneck. I am not a political commentator, i.e. a pro at this crap, but I'll give you anecdotal and personal life experiences. And yes, I'm the oldest fucker here.
You're all boomers to me, since I'm the only one of the Zoomer generation present, I believe, at this moment. Next, I'm going to throw it over to Jangles.
Hey everybody, my name is Justin. I have a YouTube channel called JanglesScienceLAD, where I throw out as many scientific sources as I can to mask the fact that I'm actually not very smart myself. I do a lot of debates and video essays on mostly social issues and comedy, and I'm super gay, which is relevant for our first topic.
Wonderful. Next, I'm going to throw it over to NorthTheMage.
I am, of course, the esteemed representative of the wizard community, come here to give you the best, the hottest, the freshest takes from the sorcerer, witch, wizard, whatever you name it. I've got it here for the podcast. I'm also here to keep Dylan's bigotry in check, to be honest, because he is not very fond of my community and what it stands for. So I'm here to push back on the unfair rhetoric that he really espouses surrounding wizards, witches, and all the like. So thanks for having me on.
Look. Okay, all I'm saying is I'd bring on a goblin
bigot.
before I'd bring on a wizard, and you were a last choice, of course. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Last choice, but reliable, because a wizard does not arrive late. He does not arrive early. He arrives precisely when he means to save your entire fucking podcast.
Yeah, I can tell that wizards arrive early because you're everywhere these days, honestly. Anyway, next I'm going to go over to A4 Andre.
Hey, I'm A4 Andre. I don't know what you want to know about me. Last time I was on this podcast, I was accused of only being here for clout, which is entirely true. Please follow me. I'm desperate. Dylan Burns put out a podcast with the 3 other content creators that were on the left. I did not make the poster. I didn't make the flyer because I don't have enough clout. Please follow me on Twitch. I'm trying to hit like 28,000 or whatever the fuck. I don't need your follows or your clout. And don't put me on the poster. This is bullshit. I'm out. Where's Lumi?
I'd put you on the poster, but the pro-gun community would not be exactly happy about that. So
wait a second. I'm also the only representative, the only pan wizard on Twitch, to my knowledge.
Like giving
I'm an
representative.
ally.
Okay.
I'm an ally,
sorry.
North. I'm an ally. Look at my wood sculpture.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough.
Virtue signaling, cultural.
Fair enough.
appropriation
You know
for the
what?
wizard
No.
community.
He's that's proper allyship in the wizard community. A.
Oh, is
B.
it?
I feel offended that I also I did not make the cut for the poster. Am I just cannon fodder to you?
Yes,
the only
yes,
reason why you bring me on here is to scream at people, and I feel objectified.
No. You're an alternate.
I feel objectified. I don't know.
North,
am I just a guy in a blue hat to you?
North, how long until you make a wizard version of the Resistance Twitch channel? How about that? How long until you do that?
We would treat you better if you had a red hat.
10.
I had to
9.
I had to take one.
I can't, Dylan. I can't get away from it every night of my life.
Look. This is the only time I've mentioned it ever on my Twitch channel, so I had to take one swing, just one. Okay. Next, we're gonna go to last username.
Hey, I'm last_username. And Cap Super Soldier and Twitch political streamer. Good to be here.
Wonderful. And finally, our biggest guest to date, Ken Shapiro.
Hey guys, this is Ken Shapiro, host of the Daily Shire on YouTube. Yeah, we do a lot of great content over there. If you haven't checked us out already, we own a lot of libtards, especially on college campuses, and we're gonna have a good stream tonight. Thank you for having me, Dylan Bird.
In all seriousness, though, we're gonna address.
Why are you doing a Basquiat impression?
This is Endernax for a moment. Okay, Endernax. Ken Shapiro has actually multiple personality disorder. Little known fact. Yeah, when I'm using the fucking voice, I'm obviously joking, chat. Okay, when I talk like this, maybe I'm being serious. Okay, just something to consider. I'm looking at you, Dylan Burns, chat. All right,
North has a good question. Why have you been doing a Basquiat impersonation ever since you got on Twitch? It's weird.
No, but even the Ben Shapiro, even the Ken Shapiro voice, that sounded dangerously close to Basquiat.
Loyal laugh.
Listen,
like,
I can't do voices.
Just sounded straight. It straight sounded like a very good mimicry of Basquiat.
Loyal laughed so hard that it sounded like he just punched his mic, then muted himself. As much as I love the bickering, we're already a little late because of the cancellation, so I do want to get into the main show. So I'm just gonna go over the rules quickly before we get into it. First rule is when I'm talking, no one else talks. So if I bring up my even if I'm only gonna say a dumb meme, you gotta be quiet for the dumb meme and you gotta suffer through it, okay? You gotta suffer through it. After you can call, I don't know, Interpol to arrest me for torturing you all in the podcast. I don't care, but you got to suffer through it. I'm doing my best to moderate. So when I'm speaking up, I'm doing my best to try to redirect the conversation back on topic or to make it so somebody has opportunities to speak who hasn't so far had an opportunity to speak. Next rule. Do not reply to other streamers in Twitch chat. If another streamer asks you in Twitch chat, I will go after them and they will get penalized. Third rule, if you interrupt excessively and I warn you, sometimes I won't even warn you, you will be muted. I have mute authority. I am very happy muting people. It's fun to mute people, so I will do it if you go over the line. Don't think I will hold myself back. Basquiat knows this better than anyone. And final rule, of course, abide by Twitch TOS. If you violate Twitch TOS, you'll be kicked off the show, and you will not be welcome back on not only my podcast, but my channel generally. Oh, and one last thing. If you have not gotten an opportunity to speak and you want to speak, but you kind of find it difficult to get involved in the conversation, raise your hand on screen. I will see it. I'll write your name down, and I'll try to direct the conversation over to you. Is there any questions about moderation or any of the rules? Nope. Redneck, do you got a question?
No, I just wanted to tell you, thank you for allowing us to be here.
Oh, no problem. I think that's it. So we're going to go forward. Everybody that's important at least. So we're going to go forward onto the first topic, which is, should children receive an LGBTQ plus inclusive education at public schools? So we're going to start in the top left corner, as always, with Faraday Speaks. Oh, also, one last thing. When I say LGBTQ plus education, this can mean a few things. It could mean exactly teaching about LGBTQ plus social issues. It could mean sex education. It could mean how do we include them in there. It's a very broad topic. And you can take it in whatever direction you want. And if you want to also move it over to private educational institutions as well, you can, but I mostly want to stay in the public school arena. So if I see it go off too much off topic, I will drag it back personally. And I know that we've had this topic before, but I was going to have, originally it was because I was going to have Lumi Rue on and I wanted to get her perspective the first time, and then I had on a second time, and obviously that cancellation has happened again, but this will probably be the last time we have this topic in the future. So for everybody like Loyal, the only one here who's actually complaining, LoyalLogic, of course, that bastard.
I wasn't complaining.
That bastard LoyalLogic who makes my job so hard. We will not have the topic again in the future. So Faraday, you are the first off. Do you have you had a question though?
Yeah, well, I have the question for the other panelists. So thank you for clarifying the boundaries of the conversation there. But what do you guys mean by LGBTQ plus education in schools? Because that can mean a lot of different things. I mean, to some people that means like they're teaching your kids to be trans. To other people that like means something completely different. So I don't know where the rest of the panel's at on that.
Are you calling on us, Dylan?
Basically,
no, it goes one by one.
Oh yeah, I almost forgot. This is on my fault. I didn't explain this. Everybody gets a 1-minute intro topic where nobody can interrupt themselves, and a 1-minute outro topic where nobody can interrupt themselves. Because so I want to make sure everybody is somewhat included in conversation. So this is your start of your 1 minute. I'm sorry I didn't explain that.
My apologies. Maybe I missed that. So I guess okay. I mean, I guess for me, what I'd like to see with that sort of education, it would blend into sexual education. Sexual education would include emotional intelligence education. And basically, I just like to teach people to be more well-rounded human beings, to be more accepting of their own identity, to be able to find a better way to figure out their own identity. So I guess that's where the LGBTQ plus stuff would come in. And then the other things I'd like to do is, in that type of education, I would have like LGBTQ plus voices, maybe through video or through like group sessions in classes, to where people would listen to each other and kind of understand each other a bit better. Because I think that you can teach kids about trans issues, or you can teach them about gay issues and all these things, but like they're not going to really understand that unless they have context. And to have context, they're going to have to talk to people. And that's what I would do in that education.
Wonderful. Next, I'm going to throw it over to LoyalLogic.
I'm still in the same position. I don't remember when I went to school being taught about straight, gay. You know, the thing is that LGBTQ plus issues in school, I'm perfectly fine with it. Now, what that looks like is the question. Now, when we were on the last show, people said, oh, well, we teach them how to have sex. It's like, you understand, like, that's never going to happen. Now, I am totally with Faraday Speaks, talking about the different identities and stuff like that, but there has to be some understanding of what the actual education is. And that's the problem I think we'll have on this panel, as well as we had on the last panel. There's no concise, ness of what that education's like. Am I for it? Of course, I'm for anything that, brings more people together. There's some more understanding. But if it comes to a place where we had someone else on the other panel say, well, maybe we should start showing produced porn, to kids. And it's like, whoa, that's my issue. It's like, what are we going to do? What are the limits? How do we do it in such a fair way that teachers as well as parents are going to be on board? Because you could have parents that say no to this, and they have the right to do that. You can't force parents to take their kids to a school and to learn things. If they want to take their kid out of the school and go to a private school, they're able to do that. We don't want that because we want funding to go to the public schools. So I'm completely for it. What it looks like is the ultimate question.
Wonderful. Next, we're going to throw it over to Redneck. I think you might be muted.
Nope. No. I'm just. So the biggest thing for me is I think I kind of carry along with. I'm not opposed to any kind of education. I still want age restrictions. I want clarification on the actual content. I want to make sure parents are involved or have a choice to opt out if they don't believe with the curriculum, because ultimately I believe it's the parents' choice or right to choose that. And I it's more a curriculum for me. I mean, as someone that's just started publicly speaking within the past month or so, I have learned a shit ton in the regards to the LGBTQ plus arena, and my own thoughts are still wavering about how I would approach things publicly and personally and socially, whatever. So I don't want to sound like I'm flipping here, but I need to see the curriculum and see the exacts before I can sit here and give you where my gut is. But my gut is, yes, we need sex education, period. But in what form and of what content that we're teaching is what I'm interested in.
Wonderful. Next, I'm going to throw it over to JanglesScienceLad.
Yeah, so my answer is going to be absolutely we should have LGBT inclusive education. And I think I'm happy to hear from the two right-wingers so far that they're for that, depending on how it looks, and I definitely agree with that. I don't think we should be teaching 5-year-olds how to do a sex. But LGBT inclusive education applies to more than just sex education. So it also applies to one of my biggest fears here is that we think LGBT should be age appropriate. Like it's somehow inappropriate to bring up the fact that some people are gay or some people are trans to younger people, and that's just not the case. So, for example, if we're teaching social studies to a third grade or something like that, and we're mentioning things like, American history, that should include African American history, that should include the legacy of the bad things we did, that should also include LGBT history. And I think if you can explain to, a 5 or 6-year-old that, mommy and daddy love each other, you should be able to explain to them that daddy and daddy love each other. And then from there, you can explain in a historical context, well, gay people had to fight for their rights in this way. We can mention that historical figures may or may not have been LGBT in certain respects. And we can mention to them contemporary social issues that involve these topics, and it can still be age appropriate. We don't have to physically show what we like to do in the bedroom, which is mostly sleep. We don't have to physically show that to children in order for them to get in order for them to gain a better understanding. And it's not just for the LGBT kids in the audience. It's also for the straight and cis kids in the audience, because it's just as important for them to see that LGBT people are just normal people as it is for LGBT people to see that their identities are valid.
Okay, next I'm going to throw it over to Ken Shapiro.
Yes. So hypothetically, if you were to have public schools, which obviously I'm against, you'd be teaching these children essentially your secular religious beliefs, because what the left likes to do is they bring in the state as the new religion. And part of this occurred under when the neo-Marxist cultural revolutionaries entered the university system. They started attacking lower education standards. This was done on purpose so that they could teach your children that there is no longer mommy and daddy. Instead, it is mommy and mommy. And I don't know about you guys, but I only have one mommy, and that's my wife. Thank you.
Next, I'm gonna throw it over. I'm gonna throw it to North.
I think Jangles did a really good job explaining it. It really isn't about, right, like it's not. I think the only issue that I take typically with like, given that this is like typically formatted as left versus right kind of podcast, the only issue that I take with what like the rhetoric of the right wingers right now is right, that it's like, oh, of course we should have a sex education, right? Gender identity is very, very separate from what just like sex education is and should be, and affirming identities really does come down to like basic human decency. So I think like whether or not we should educate our kids at a young age, of course we should, and I think that that's the question that maybe we'll delve more deeply into as the discussion furthers on, because I think we all agree that some form of it should be here. What that should look like, how early that should be, I think might be a topic of contention. But I think it's important to remember that affirming people's identities really takes nothing out of right our lives, and like contributes meaningfully to marginalized groups' sense of self and purpose in society when they have been such a marginalized group historically.
Okay, next I'm going to throw it over to A4 Andre.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like we're largely in agreement here, so we'll have to have discussions about the nuance. I think children should be learning about how to have the sex. I think this is something that probably we'll argue about later. But to the broader topic, this education should happen, not just about sex education. About historical issues, about social issues, about the entire LGBT community. I'll probably be mostly approaching this from the perspective of a parent who has a child in school right now. But I think sex education is a joke right now. I think often it excludes and even promotes prejudice against LGBT youth. I think that this hostile school environment is, dangerous for kids. So I'm ready. I'm excited for this one.
Last username.
Right. So I think it's very important that a public education system teach only, I guess we'll call it objective knowledge, neutral objective knowledge. Now, what exactly we consider to be objective knowledge is another complicated issue, but certainly we have scientific consensus on sex and health and sexual health in general. There's lots we can teach kids about their bodies, about how to be healthy from a medical perspective in a perfectly objective way, and I'm all for that. I think everyone has a right to know how their own body works. And you can include straight and gay sex in that, no problem. We can even teach some things about transgenderism. I mean, science knows a little about transgenderism, but not a whole lot. What makes me concerned, though, is when we start to get to teaching things like how to form an identity or how to find your identity or whatever it is. And it's so... I really don't think you want the government involved in deciding what the standard approach to that is, and then indoctrinating all children in it. This is something that needs to happen organically, socially. I think that anyone, if you are someone who's had trouble finding your identity or whatever, you should be very concerned about that becoming politicized. I don't think you would like the results of the state becoming the arbiter of what it means to be gay, or how you should be gay, or how you should be trans. That is really dangerous. So yeah, public education can teach science, and through science we can give kids a lot of important information about sexuality and about health. And it can be LGBT inclusive, but we have to be just very careful about being objective about it and not trying to teach culture through schools.
Okay, so everybody has had a 1-minute introduction. I second last username. I hope I'm gonna actually oppose him. I hope everybody in chat is gaying properly. If you gay incorrectly in chat, you will be muted. So that's.
I will teach all of them how to gay.
How to gay. Thank you.
I think to start off though, that's a really important distinction to make, because your issue last username.
Let me clarify something quickly though. You don't need to raise your hand to be called.
Yeah,
on.
you don't.
Just only if you feel like you can't budge your way in, then you raise your hand.
Yeah.
So like if a little bit, it's like I feel like I'm not being heard right now. Raise your hand or write your name down and I'll direct it over to you.
We're talking about our education system. It's bringing back memories.
Yeah, but I don't think anyone is talking about, right? Like no one's discussing this, and I think it's important that I think everyone on this panel will agree, at least maybe on the left, that right, no one's trying to tell someone, right, this is your specific language, how you should be gay, how you should be trans. No one would be teaching that. That's not what's included in the LGBTQ education. I don't think anyone.
And I also,
it is sometimes though. It is sometimes.
Yeah, but I want to be clear that
I think people would agree.
I want to be.
One at a time.
Just to finish, right? I think that the important thing to recognize, right, is that it's just about how to be accepting, right? How to understand, how to affirm, maybe not even how to affirm other people's identities, but it's just how to not actively encroach and demean other human beings, right? The fact that other people have valid and differing identities from you, right? That's the thing that needs to be taught vis-a-vis gender identity, vis-a-vis, right, like sexual difference.
There's one thing.
I don't care.
No. This isn't fair.
Okay, no, I don't care. I don't care.
Well,
Okay, listen. So listen. We need to stick, because this is the same issue we had on the last panel. We need to stick to the topic of sex education. If that is what the topic is,
it's
now.
not.
Now the reason I say
trans is not
really.
Sex.
Okay, but it's sex education. Is that not the topic?
Let me clarify.
Yeah, I mean that's the same issue we had last time.
Let me clarify the topic. This is last time was about sex education. This is about LGBTQ plus education broadly. So this would include sex education.
Okay.
All types of education.
Okay, and I want to say then. Okay, so listen. I think when it comes to sex education, we need to keep that separate from social civics. I agree that we need to be teaching people in school how to treat people that are identified differently. Anyway, LGBTQ politically, we need to be teaching people to treat each other with kindness and respect. And this is something I talked about in the last panel that we are lacking across the board in the United States. That the fact is that it starts at home and then it starts at schools. So if it's not going to happen at the home, we need to start teaching our kids at school on how to conduct themselves in public. When they meet someone that is LGBTQ plus, they need to know, you're different than me, but that's fine. I love you anyway.
Yes, and one thing I want to say, in the great words of a former benzodiazepine addict and a good friend of mine, Jordan Peterson, it's not that it's not that simple, man. It's just not that simple. What are you gonna do? Put the kids in jail for misgendering each other? This is ridiculous, man. None of this is practical.
And you're right, Dylan. I read the question wrong. Sorry.
So
no
I think
problem.
there's some kind of
Faraday, I think, got his hand up.
Basic
I
decency.
want to throw it over to Faraday quickly.
I can just kind of go through some things that I was thinking about, what somebody else was saying. So someone was talking about showing sexual content to kids. Now, this is, to me, not the most important part of the whole program. To me, it's the social emotional learning part. And that would be including helping people identify healthily with their identity, not defining their identity, because that's for them to figure out. So one of the problems I see, I think in a perfect world, we would not have to worry about teaching kids about sex stuff. For a long time, the only sex stuff that kids did was pretty vanilla stuff. And that's not that dangerous. There's not a whole lot of harm that can come out of that. Problem is right now is kids have access to porn sites. Okay, they have access to porn sites and they have access to multimedia from a variety of sources, which is encouraging them into doing things. Now, we also have to remember that it's not so much cam girls and porn that's a problem. You have websites like Pornhub who algorithmically build themselves so that they keep you addicted to the porn, so that they keep you away from learning any social or emotional skills, which allow you to cope with the reason you're on the porn site all the time in the first place.
Well, and Faraday as well is like some Twitch streamers will talk about sex issues, and a lot of people are younger. They're like, I don't know what they're talking about.
Well, so, or that if they're or people are talking about something inappropriately. So everybody's going to these porn sites. These kids are on these porn sites. And first of all, what I would do is I would regulate the sites. I would not regulate porn as content, but I would regulate these sites about how are these sites allowing people on? Is there some sort of age filter? And then also, are they using casino gambling-like tactics to hook people into the site? And then also, I would actually put pressure on Pornhub to, I don't know, maybe redirect. There could be something to involving sex education and intervention on the site itself.
In all seriousness, like obviously the voice change here. Quick question for you. So would you be in favor of something like, I propose this in other panels, something like a government ID that's attached to you, but not attached directly to like any of your personal information, because people are very concerned about privacy,
That's a great discussion.
that confirms your age? So like,
yeah, I've thought about this. I don't have an answer for you. I know what you're talking about. You're talking about some sort of like ID that allows you to get onto the internet. I've thought about this. Now, I don't know. I would honestly not give technology to kids that are under like 16. I wouldn't give them cell phones. I wouldn't give them social media, and I would give them Xboxes that are basically like.
Wow, you even go
not
further
to jump in too much, but
I gotta say I have a lot of respect.
But I don't want to get too much into.
No. I understand.
Okay.
But a lot of people actually are not very tuned into this like mental health disaster that we've created by allowing these children to use these platforms and to stay online. So very, very based in anti-tech of you. I very impressed. I like you.
Great topic. By the way, I don't.
Wait. Let's let Caleb finish.
I'm a libertarian. I don't like just going through, oh, let's regulate this and let's regulate that. But these things have to be regulated the same way that we regulate gambling, the same way that we regulate sex work. Like all these things have to be regulated. So the final thing is, this stuff's confusing children. Children are getting their sexual education. So I used to be engaged to a second grade teacher. She told me that the kids in the class, they would go out in the hallway, hump each other and moan. Okay? We didn't do that when we were kids. They learned that from somewhere. They're getting it offline. And you can't just rely on the parents. Like you can't. So they need to regulate these platforms. But then finally, because the kids are seeing this sex stuff online, they're going to try these things. And a lot of these things are dangerous. Anal sex is dangerous. Choking someone is dangerous. Biting people can be dangerous. There's a lot of, slapping people can be dangerous. Bondage can be dangerous. These things have to be performed safely. And I'm not saying let's just go into every school and have this set curriculum for what we're teaching people, but there has to be some way for the kids to be able to come forward to an adult mentor that can then like.
Isn't the solution to that to put it into public schools, right? Isn't that the best way?
I would have a sexual education expert on site, and that person would run these curriculums, and then that person could work as a kind of guidance counselor.
That's what I said on the last show.
I don't know.
If children come to them, sorry, I know I'm taking up a lot of time. I'll shut up for a while after this. If the children come to them and say, hey, I heard about this anal sex thing. I'm thinking about trying that. You don't have to teach the kids in the class that, but if they come to you asking, then you best damn better tell them how to do it safely, or someone's going to end up with some perforation. Someone's going to end up in the hospital. These things can happen if they're not done safely, and children are the ones that are going to do them unsafely. So while I'm uncomfortable teaching kids those things, I have to be a realist in the world that we're in. So anyway,
and that's what I said on the last show. We should have somebody that is in each school district. They travel around, go once a week to the high school sex education guys, and they're allowed to ask any questions. They're anything. And this is something, like I said, when I was in elementary school, we had an art guy that went around. I don't know why we can't have that in school districts where once a week in the sex education
I can
class.
tell you.
There's a justification for all of this too, because like what Faraday says is completely right in regards to these kids already know about this stuff. So in my mind, that means we should probably teach them, because it's not like anecdote Andy here, I suppose, but I didn't fucking find pornography on the internet until I was like in a sixth grade like football locker room, and all the boys were talking about it or something, right?
You never just Googled big large breasts on the internet?
Nope, never did. Can't say I did.
I did that when I was like 7 years old. I did that with my good friend Alex. He and I were just had a separate conversation. We were playing World of Warcraft, and I was at his house, and we were looking at a night elf together, and we were like, these are boobs are sick, bro. And he was like, yeah, same. And you know, we went on a journey on the internet.
So Jangles, I want to hear from Jangles.
Okay, yeah. I have a list of 3 names who I want to hear from. Number 1 is Jangles, then Red, then last username. So first, I'm going to start with last username.
Okay.
Well, you know, we can start with last username. He was asking before.
Start with someone else. Let me think what I want to say next.
Okay, I'll start with Jangles then.
Well, I'll have a question for last username towards the end of it. So, I think LoyalLogic brought it up. Have someone like I like the spirit of your idea of have someone come around and talk at this, but you cannot rely on questions for kids, especially regarding sex. So I'm just thinking, and this is an anecdotal experience, but I don't think it's fair to extrapolate this to a lot of gay kids in a lot of different areas. So I grew up in a very rural community in Eastern Kentucky, very, very conservative. Like being gay in there was a tantamount to like you were basically guaranteeing that you were about to be bullied, probably physically. Like if you were openly gay in my high school, you were going to get beat up. It was like a fact of nature. So I don't think that like hey. Like asking in front of your class, like you like with your anecdote about the art teacher, like asking, hey, so how does one have anal sex? Amongst a room of your peers was going to be good. It almost has to be like I'm going to tell you about anal sex.
You could also we could do notes or something. I'm just saying having someone be able to answer these questions.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. I like the spirit of what you were saying. So yeah, I like the spirit of what you were saying. I think it should be an inclusive part of a comprehensive sex education to introduce at least the basics. Like, hey, if you're going to try anal sex, you have to know the basics of lubrication. You have to know how that could introduce certain STDs with more frequency. You should be informed about all these things. Like with Faraday's talking, like you should be introduced to like if you're going to do something related to bondage. Here's the bare bones. All right, we're just going to tell you like the actual facts of the things to do it, but I don't want to bog down LGBT inclusive education with sex education because those are not the same thing. And I think
that's why I wanted to separate them at the beginning. Like they are to me,
Agreed.
It's 2 different subjects, you know.
Yep, and this is where I was going to go. Kind of ask my question to last username to kind of hopefully like he can come in on this. Like, so there is no such thing as an objective education, unfortunately. Especially like even in schools, like in elementary and middle and high schools, there's no such thing as an objective education unless you want to get rid of things like social studies, unless you want to get rid of history, unless you want to get rid of civics and government and things like that. There's always going to be some sort of subjective influence in that. So as we learn about history, we're going to learn about whatever perspective the school or the state or even at the federal level deems what is appropriate to teach the kids, which as a tangent that I hopefully don't want to get into, which is why a patriotic education is poisonous. But if we start talking about like we can't introduce subjective opinions into this, well, we have to. And so by avoiding certain things, like avoiding, for example, trans issues for elementary school kids, that's not an objective education. That's a perspective that you're not including, and you're choosing to not include it from a subjective perspective. Trans people exist. Gender identity is something that we develop by the age that we're like 2 or 3 at the earliest. By the time you're in elementary school, you have developed a gender identity. Whether you're trans, cis, or something else, you have developed that gender identity based on the best scientific knowledge that we have available. So it's already something they're going to be familiar with, and so to not allow discussion of that, or to not make that, something that you can't discuss with children in an elementary school setting, is already throwing objectivity out the window. So I guess I would ask, like, what parts of what you would consider like an LGBT inclusive education would you consider like not objective or not appropriate to teach children? I realize that's a loaded question, and I apologize. You're welcome to reframe it.
So we can, I agree that we probably can't actually be completely objective, but we can try to be, right? And that makes a big difference. So, you know, I don't accept that you say, well, we can't be objective, so let's just be extremely subjective. No, we can try to be as objective as we can.
I hope you realize that's not what I was saying either, right?
I mean, it seems like you were saying that. Like you're saying, well, we can't be objective, so let's not try.
I love me some science. I love me some studies.
So
in fact,
one thing
of the things I'm known for is trans studies, which is why I'm very confident in my ability to defend it subjectively.
Well, I mean, one thing that we could do is you know, in a class that's supposed to be teaching about sexual health, just stick to medical knowledge. I don't think that. Sure,
but for the sex part of the education, sure. But what about like should there be no part? Right? Should there be no role of a public education system to teach where parents might not, right? A system of like you know like some part of ethics in terms of right, like
do you
recognizing
think
other people's.
Yeah, I don't think there's any.
I do want to give time to last username to respond here.
I don't think there's really any ethical issues that come up in a sexual health class, not particularly.
But not a sexual health class, right? Gender identity, right? Like
Even in sexual health.
What specifically would you want to teach relating to gender identity? In
like
public
right,
schools?
like how to like people's, like maybe you would teach, you know, how people use pronouns, right? And like how affirming pronouns is, you know, can be an important part, like medically speaking, right? This is not
I don't
objective, right? Like how dysphoria, right? No, but how dysphoria contributes, right? Like misgendering people contributes to dysphoric, right? Like experiences of trans people, right? Especially the intentional misgendering.
No, this
people,
sounds
right? Which causes mental distress.
This doesn't sound.
You can't pretend like. You know, you can't pretend like that including that stuff would be political. Not including it.
It's not political, but it's not. It's something that is a cultural issue that's you know, pretty.
We can't avoid cultural issues
right
in
now.
school.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah,
sure you can.
Hold on, no, we can't. Of course we can't.
How?
Well, okay, but I have a question then. So if you can, I have to ask then. If you can, then I have to. Are you guys okay with teaching patriotic type education?
I'm sorry, what?
A patriotic type education, like that's why I said not just for LGBTQ plus issues, but like I said, for different political identities and being respectful. Like, let's be honest, there's lots of people on the left that get treated like crap.
Stop. We're going too far away from this, and I'm surprised that LoyalLogic is able to talk more than both Endernaxes. Now, I think this is an important question, and I want to hear last username's response. You don't see any value in teaching this, the social issues, the history. You think that these things are like a cultural issue?
The problem is I don't really know the best label to describe what I have trouble with teaching. But I mean, if you're giving me examples, like I don't think teaching people like what pronouns to use or how to appease people by using the right pronouns, I don't think that belongs in any sort of class really in public school.
Why not?
Because that's something. Because it's just,
all right. This is a legitimate. Okay, this is a legitimate question because we're going to find.
It's just highly prescriptive, right? That seems to me as like school is trying to manipulate, engineer culture, engineer art, social norms.
About culture, I was making the point.
I don't think education should be trying to influence social norms. Let me put it that way.
All right, I have a series of hypotheticals that I think that because one, I don't think you agree with that, and at the end, this series of hypotheticals, I think it's going to help us. Do you think it is okay for our schools to teach that slavery was morally wrong? Let's start at the bare bones minimum.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. That seems pretty straightforward. You could teach.
Here we go.
Well, no, because I'm not saying that I think you would disagree with
that. If you're going to use race in that, if you're going to use race in that aspect, then how about I ask you this: is it okay for me to be transracial? Can I identify as black?
Dude,
I don't care.
We're getting so far away from the point.
Like, dude, all right. I can already tell we're gonna get along just fine.
Okay, I do want to get over to. I did want to eventually get over to Redneck. I don't really want to have. I understand how it kind of got to that, but I do want to make sure we do stay on topic. Redneck, you wanted to talk a while ago, and I saw that.
And give him the floor, man. He's been sitting here the whole time.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be respectful. I'm trying to raise my hand. I'm doing the whole thing, right?
Yeah. I'm sorry. I had your name written down, and it's sometimes hard to stop conversation, but I do want to bring it over to you now. You wanted to comment a while ago, so I wanted to turn over the conversation to you for a second.
So it went from sex education to social education to identity education to 2- and 3-year-olds able to identify what their actual gender is. Can you link that study for a fact for me? Because I would like to learn that, how a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old can understand.
Oh, absolutely. This is scientific fact. I'm very confidently with that too.
Let's unfinish.
Right. The second thing is that you stated that. Well, let me ask you this: do we have a definite number of genders now, or is it? What's the definite number of genders?
Why is that important?
Because
we have a definite number of colors.
Why is this important? Why is this even relevant? And why last username do you not want people to like learn how to treat each other? How to
hold on. I want them to learn that. I don't want the state to.
I really want to hear
Dylan speaking, guys.
I really want to hear.
Redneck got cut off.
I'm server muting everyone except for people I want to talk right now. Okay, so that was a lot of questions directed at 2 people, and there was responses at 2 people. So I saw JanglesScienceLad. There was a question asked of last username, and there was a question asked of Redneck. And JanglesScienceLad, you were trying to talk to Redneck. So I kind of want this to just be you 3 for a second. So last username, you got a question directed at you. I want you to answer it. And Redneck, I want you to answer that right after. So last username, you can answer that question.
So there's
I'm
a
really
very.
sorry. I forgot what question I asked you. I'm sorry.
I'm answering Andre's question first.
Okay.
So, Andre asked, why do I not want the schools to teach people how to get along? First of all, there's a big difference between what I want people to learn and what I want public schools to teach, right? Not everything we learn from school. In fact, I think most of the things we don't learn from school. How to get along with people, I think, is something we need to learn from other people, from the process of getting along with people. We learn that socially. I don't like the idea of the state, of the government, making some massive policy about how we need to get along with each other, and then imposing that on children through an education system. That seems highly tyrannical,
clear and present issue
totalitarian.
North, I'll remute everybody. I forgot to never trust panel host guests. That was the primary rule. I forgot. Okay, so you two can continue.
So, I mean, that seems highly totalitarian and completely unnecessary. Like, kids want to get along with each other. We have very instinctive mechanisms for learning how to get along with each other. I don't see any value in having schools teach that. I think schools should just teach knowledge, referential knowledge. Yeah, Jangles.
Okay, Jangles, you respond to that?
Yeah, Dylan, did you want Redneck to come in before I respond?
I did want Redneck.
I might derail. So let Redneck come in first.
No problem. So Redneck, you wanted to respond to something earlier. You can continue.
So what I was trying to ask is, there was a definite 2 to 3 years old. They can identify or already start to do their identifying journey. For those of you that don't think I understand, here's what I've learned so far. You say that the organs are the physical, and then the genders is a spectrum, i.e. based off of how much masculinity or femininity based roles you take on or socially are constructed currently. So when you give me this spectrum, I'm asking, is it finite? Does it have a beginning? Does it have an end? I find it relevant because it then creates a scope. A scope is what education is supposed to teach. It's supposed to create a narrow scope, i.e. sex ed used to be for health-related concerns. How to wash your ass, how to start from the head, go down to your toes, don't get crotch right, all that's, the basics. It wasn't meant to tell 3-year-olds that their gender is X or Y or Z. And then on the second part, or the push I'm saying is, it seems that our culture has slipped because everything is now going into the control of the school or the state instead of at home. What happened to personal responsibility and allowing me to teach my kids our core moral beliefs first? And trust me, none of my kids were raised to hate anyone for who they are. Not a one, not for anything sexually, physically, ideologically, socially at all. So when do we start giving the government that full right? Because we have a few parents that don't do their own fucking jobs? Like, really? I mean, we want to sit here and talk about.
I'm gonna try not to be nice, but that's really precious. That's really precious what you just told me. I was raised, so I'm gay. And I was, like I said, was raised in Eastern Kentucky, where I regularly heard in the hallways that gay people deserve to be rounded up and shot. And I need to ask you a question. I know, but wouldn't it be great if we had some sort of education, some sort of, I don't know, like maybe a common set of values that our educational system instilled, or at least attempted to instill within us, where maybe gay people weren't seen as pariahs deserving of death? So I'm going to go ahead and ask both of you, since I'm not done yet. Do you think that we should have, as a country, do you think we should have, at least at the very core, a common set of values that maybe we even instill in our public education system?
Before anybody answers that question, Redneck restated a question he asked earlier about, do you have a concrete set of gender numbers?
Yep. We also don't have a concrete number of sexualities. Does that bother you as well?
So
you say you're a science man.
Do you think it's just gay, straight, bisexual, and those are the three?
No, I'm saying I've been told my whole life that it's only a penis, a vagina, or maybe both, or maybe deformities of those three. But
so you don't understand the difference between sex and gender.
But no, I was just sitting there saying that that's the physical, and then the social construct is the gender, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So you asked you asked a really interesting question there, which is, do you think that we should have a common set of values?
Redneck was not finished.
Go ahead and finish. I have a good answer for this.
Redneck was not finished. I just want Redneck to finish.
the two things I asked earlier were I asked for the link on the study for the 2 3-year-olds knowing what their gender is, because if there's a large spectrum, I can't comprehend myself at this age. The genderbread man that I looked at, and this other big panel I've been seeing and I'm trying to follow, which took a person 2 years to fucking learn, and they're actually transgender and linked that to me, and they jokingly told me it took them 2 years to learn it. If you think that this is a normal thing in society for us to grasp, and I'm just the fucking idiot here, I apologize. I know it seems precious, but let's be simple. If you want a scope that's this big, then transracial is a thing, transhuman is a thing. Everything that's got trans in front of it can be on that slope. So I'm asking.
Here's what I'll say. I'd like to jump in. No.
I'm coming in here.
Listen, I get it. You're a want to cancel me.
To be fair, he hasn't talked yet.
Yeah, listen. I understand. You know, you guys. This is pretty yikesy. Okay, this is exactly the left's take. They want to take your children and indoctrinate them into the cult of woke. They don't care about religious values. They don't want your kids to worship God. They want not just that. That is true. That is very true. But what they want most of all is to destroy your religion. And you, as an American, deserve to be religious. So I'm telling you, Americans, we need to rise up. Join the Young America Foundation. Join me in pushing back against these radical SJW neo-cultural Marxists. Thank you. That's all.
Okay, so I just want to make a quick comment to what Red said. Red was like, well, what about transracialism, or we can throw in transspeciesism or whatever. I mean, first of all, the meme about transspeciesism, that's going to be a question in about 100 years when they get genetic modification. So don't think it's too crazy of a question. The transracial thing has obviously got a lot of cultural baggage in it, tied up with the whole race meme. But like for me, what it is, it's like, so why do we care about this transgender thing? Why do we even care? Well, it's because there's actually a lot of transgender people, and there has been for like a really long time. And to me, it's not so much about like what the ideology of it is, or technically what it is on paper, but it's just about like, what is this person saying to me? And like, am I going to listen?
Right, but the expectations are that we're supposed to know what the thought of someone like myself. I say yes, sir, and no, sir, and yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am to anyone that physically I identify as one of those two. It's a respectful thing. I've already fucked up in my life and said, thank you, sir, to a ma'am. And she says, I'm a ma'am. And I said, oh, I apologize, ma'am. And she goes, no, I really appreciate the fact that you still said ma'am. And every person that I've talked to, if you tell me what your pronoun is, I will be respectful of it, even though I don't agree. But does that mean that we're supposed to teach that I mean, if we can't define the variances,
what don't you agree with? Just to be clear,
I'll just say one more. I just want to say one more.
What don't you agree with? Rory, you're saying you don't agree with people being called a pronoun other than he or she? You don't agree with someone using they as a pronoun? Okay, so in my education so far, and what I'm learning, I'm still very new to this LGBTQ understanding, right? The separation of gender and sex. It doesn't matter how the genders are defined to me, because they still end up talking about how a stick goes into a hole, and you can pick whatever hole it is, you can pick whatever stick it is. You said you don't agree. You said someone is going to have to call them a different thing other than he or she, other than yes sir or no ma'am, yes sir, no sir, yes ma'am, no ma'am. You said I don't agree with things outside of that. What don't you agree with?
Right, what does this got to do with the damn topic? I mean, come on, you guys.
I'm supposed to be on the fly, like I'm supposed to know.
No one is saying that. That's not. You're not answering my question. What don't you agree with?
It does. We're not here to pick on what he doesn't agree. We're here for the topic. The topic.
I have a great answer on topic.
Great.
It actually relates back to logic. Okay. So one of the things, well, kind of, you like mentioned in passing an art teacher, and I'm going to use that as a jumping off point.
Okay.
So can we definitively identify a concrete set objective number of colors? The answer to that is no. We cannot. There's an infinite spectrum of colors. But I think it's also fair to say that we have an enormous understanding of color theory and art theory and why certain colors mesh with each other. We can absolutely understand that, and we don't have to identify a set objective number of colors. So with gender, right now we conceptualize it on a masculine-feminine spectrum, and you know what? Maybe as our understanding grows as a culture, we might have more. I think right now the primary ones are, man, woman, non-binary, and a few others years in between. As we grow as a culture, we'll find more.
Yeah, we
as
start
people
at
gain
debates.
more and more utility. Yeah, we
exactly.
can
You start at debate, and that's what I was saying. You know, listen, I think that's what we should do. And I think Red is just trying to say, like, listen, when we're going to I get what he's saying. When we're going to teach this, what are we going to teach? That's what my contention was. And it's like, we have to have a base understanding at the educational level. If that's the problem with a lot of right wingers, not like me, obviously, because I'm totally for the LGBTQ plus community having representation in education, but they don't get on board because a lot of people can't give a set base. That's all, Jangles. And I think that what you just said makes a lot of sense. Let's start with the base and build up from there.
So I think a lot of the disconnect in this conversation is because we did not have these conversations in school, and we certainly should have had. The fact that we're having to explain to Redneck some things that I think are kind of simple, but I get that he's disconnected from. I don't fault you for this, Redneck, is like obvious. The conversation right now shows that we must have this in school. I think
without getting into too many personal details, I would have really appreciated an LGBT inclusive sex education because when I went to college, I lacked a lot of information. And
I didn't need sex education.
And to finish my point, I don't mind the interruption, but to finish my point, I think that like this is concrete evidence that we should have had these conversations, and I think everyone is mostly in agreement. I think Last Username has some reservations, which I disagree with. You say that like kids are just going to be nice to each other because they want to. This is ridiculous. You don't know a lot of kids. For what I would want to know is like, what do you think that we should not be teaching? Because we all agree that like we should be teaching this. It seems some people in this room think that certain things should not be taught or are not valid. I'd be curious what those are.
Well, it's very important to understand that.
Wait. Ken Shapiro, I love the bit. I love the bit, but that was a thing directed at Last Username. You're not going to use your college debate tactics here, Ken. Okay, Last Username, you get to respond.
What for anyone for Last Username, LoyalLogic, Redneck? What is the thing that should not be taught? I disagree with Username, but
I said it at the beginning on how to have sex.
Well, again, I directed the conversation in a very precise way to Last Username to respond to the children, not only that, but also the children will be nice to each other comment. What do you think of those? That and the question.
Okay, yeah. To you. So I didn't say that children will be nice to each other. I said I want children to learn to be nice to each other. Some children will learn that, some children not so much. But what I said is I want them to learn that through interactions, through social interactions, through being social. I don't want that to be taught through a state-controlled school curriculum. Why not? Because I do want, Jangles asked me, shouldn't we all have a common set of values that we all agree to? Sure, we should, but we don't. How do we get one? The process by which we get one is this ongoing negotiation process that happens through social interactions. If we get the state to carry out that process by using the public school system, that seems like a massive escalation of the force that we're like. I mean, you're assuming that the school system will be used to get the right social values through, but what if it can also be used to get the wrong ones through? I think it's
Last
much
Username
more.
makes a great point here.
Let's let him finish. Let's let him finish.
I have a question for you.
So I think rather than fighting over control of the school system, which is what will happen, it'd be much more productive and better for the long term to say we're not going to use the system that's meant to teach children skills to get them started in life to wage culture war against each other. If there are contentious issues, social issues, we're going to resolve those without using the power of the state to try to indoctrinate children, because
that's nonsense, and I resent your
it's absolutely not nonsense.
Faraday did everything but raise his hand. I will throw it over to Faraday.
Okay, I get what you're saying about you're worried about the state putting people through an ideology, right? Okay, but what if the education system? Now, first of all, we already do basic education. We teach people about history. Should we really stop the way we teach history because there's a whole bunch of ideological prescriptions in there? No.
We should try to get those out the best we can.
Maybe we could do a better job. I agree with you, right? So what if the education that we teach people, because you're wanting to do this social interaction. I actually think that's the best way to do it. I think putting kids in front of this teacher that just tells them how to have anal sex and tells them what gender pronouns are and tells them like just this bam, bam, bam information, that doesn't work, because we went through that as kids, and even the basics of what they taught us, we didn't listen to. So I agree with you that it needs to be interactive. So what if what we're teaching is, when it comes to all the gender pronouns and all that, it's just baseline definitions of things, no prescriptions, just baseline definitions. And then we stack on top of that, this has to be in the sexual education, this social emotional learning, which we already have modules and curriculums for this, to teach kids how to interact with each other and get them interacting with each other, and do it through games. And I don't mean stupid computer games, but get them to play games with each other and get them to teach them how to listen to each other, empathize with each other, and negotiate with each other. Because I think at the end of that, they're going to want to use each other's pronouns. And it doesn't matter if someone's like, I came up with a brand new pronoun. Everybody's going to be like, okay, well, why? And then the person will explain, and everybody will be like, okay, that seems reasonable. We can respect that.
What exactly does that consist of, teaching them to get along with each other? I mean,
it's social emotional. So you have to go through a whole thing. Like, for example, our people in our society are really broken. They need therapy. They need like emotional skills. They need communication skills. I know this from myself. I've been on a huge journey this past 2 years learning these skills. I mean, a lot of these skills you can learn from women, because women spend so much time interacting with each other, and they kind of learn this organically. So I think that there's a lot of emotional and communication skills that we could teach people, and it would clear up a lot of these problems. It would clear a lot of our political problems too.
I think the base, I mean, I totally agree with you. Having the base in there and teaching just, hey, this is how you, and that doesn't mean, this is what's weird to me, is like, I am coming from a place of like, listen, this would most likely be taught to high schoolers, maybe middle schoolers. I mean, I'm in my head, I don't think elementary school would be involved. You know, that's the fundamental years where you're teaching the basic stuff. But I think by the time people get to middle school and high school, they're able to understand last username. I do think you're not giving enough credit that they are able to understand more than when we were kids on what they're being taught. You know, so I just think that at base level of saying, hey, listen, some people identify as they versus he, I think that's perfectly reasonable. That's not saying that the kids have to say it.
But you don't have to teach them that, saying, right? Like, they'll learn that.
Well, no, I'm saying, but saying that some people, all I'm saying is that telling them that some people identify as they, that's not saying you have to call them they. That's just saying this is the reality of identities that people interact with. And if someone says that, this is why they say it. So this is what, you know, I do think there is a reason that we should do it, because in the future, we're going to have more people from the LGBTQ plus community being in positions of interaction, and you do not want to be in that position where you say something and it leads to a total bad outcome of you possibly not be able to have a friend or something like that. You know, I don't like that idea.
So if it were possible to teach,
when I was calling you out.
Well, first I do want to let last username respond. I will throw it to you after, because that was directed directly at him, so it'd be unfair for it to.
If you, it's theoretically possible to teach about gender issues from a sort of detached scientific perspective, like from the perspective of someone who's just sort of observing society and saying, well, this is apparently how society behaves. Yes. I think it's probably extremely difficult to get that kind of curriculum in public schools without it becoming turning into this sort of prescriptive thing and being hijacked by people who are trying to prescribe normative things like social norms onto the kids. But you know, maybe it's possible. Maybe it doesn't seem to be possible now because it's just too. There's so much controversy around gender.
But you see what I'm saying, correct? But you're seeing what I'm saying, though, is that if we could take away the political and the cultural part of it and just presenting it, you are for it. Then you're just worried about it being okay. So there we go. I mean, there's some common ground.
Okay, I'm not even sure. I'm not even sure you agree with that. We should completely get rid of political or social values in school. So, for just as a show of hands here, who played school sports? Or on any sort of teams, academic teams, and what have you.
Yeah.
Were those objective?
5-4.
Huh?
What do you mean objective? I mean, they're not.
5'4". Oh, I was asking. Well, I mean, were those like teaching you science?
They were
those
fun.
Teaching you?
I went to an
They're teaching you
Orthodox
skills,
Jewish school.
and they're fun.
But I mean, he has a really good point.
We
Like,
didn't
even
have
like,
sports.
like the leadership skills that they attempt to teach you, right? Like they always don't do a fantastic job. I'll admit in public schools, right? I don't think they do a fantastic job of it. But they at least attempt to like instill like some kind of like project based, like cooperative learning environment where people can learn what it means to work with other people and what that actually looks like.
Yeah,
so that
I
they can
played
be better
basketball for
equipped
7
later.
years, despite being terrible at it. I was in marching band for 7 years. I played tennis. I was a really good tennis player.
I don't see how that's
Extracurriculars
analogous,
is a
though.
huge part of that.
Yeah,
Because
I don't think-
now hold on. Were those? Why do we have those in schools in the first place? They don't teach you any sort of objective information unless you're talking about like the rules of
Sure they
sport.
do. They
And
teach
I
you how to
don't know
play
if we
the
consider
sport.
those. Well, is that like would we devote that much like time, effort, and most importantly money? Would we be building all these like stadiums in high school? In high schools, sometimes, which by the way are taken away from like funding for like textbooks and things like that.
I bet this spends
devoted this much
community,
on will be the community, community, and more important than community, it's like it teaching to these kids leadership roles, how to work with teams, what it means to be a representative of your community, what it means to win gracefully and lose respectfully. These are important life skills that we're teaching these kids, and I don't think any of us would disagree that that's what these sports are here for.
But there's no
So for you
teamwork
to sit here and-
class, right? You just put them on a team and they learn teamwork. That's fine, right? Like you put them in a class
but
full
we're
of other
also
kids
putting
and they
them on
learn
that
how to get
team.
along with the kids. But I don't think you
but
have
we're
a
also
getting
we're
along
also
with
devoting-
people class, right?
But you're
We're
saying,
also
but you're saying,
devoting all of these resources and time and effort and coaching. We're paying the salaries of these coaches, and we're paying for the sometimes tens of thousands of dollars for these facilities and weight rooms and things like that because the values that these sports teach to these kids are viewed as important, and those are cultural, those are social.
Yes,
values.
but like I
I
say,
don't
they're
think
not.
any of us would disagree with that.
It's entirely
I have
possible
to
that they're
push back
learning
a bit on
values
that.
by doing these sports, but it's not. The values are not in the curriculum, right?
I just want to say
you're saying that it should just be prescriptive. You just said earlier, right? Earlier, you made a statement that was right, like they should teach right, like prescriptive facts in public schooling and nothing else, right? Whereas like clearly that's not the case. Clearly that's not what you want because they do teach other things through these extracurricular activities.
No. There's a difference between what they teach and what kids learn. Remember what I said before?
Extracurricular means it's not required. We're talking about required learning.
Any team sport, team sport that
PE
exists and is being
right?
funded by public dollars should immediately be defunded. This does not give a credence to the original idea of American individualism. This is collectivization. This is not appropriate. It needs to be stopped now. We can't have people thinking that they're on teams.
Singles.
no,
This
this
is
is
not
There
even-
was some common ground had with last username, and none of you guys I'm shocked that none of you guys grasped onto it. I mean, I just got him to admit, as long as it wasn't political or culturally driven, he would be fine with it. I mean, that was all. That's all his disagreement is with it. I mean, and I'm shocked that none of you guys.
I feel like your definitions of political and social are just way different. Like,
But not to him. But not to him, though.
Okay.
And
Well,
we're trying
I
to
didn't
point
use
that
the term
out.
political. Or if I did,
well, social and cultural then, but you don't agree with that.
But even if
Teamwork
it-
is a
but even-
cultural
yes.
value.
Even if it's not an extracurricular program, we still do this in classrooms with group projects. This is something that we intentionally teach, whether there is a class or not. It is an intention and a goal, and a very important one in schools, right?
The fact that we have science classes in schools at all is a cultural value. You can't separate those.
I understand
we have to keep cultural values outside of schools. Like,
I understand it's always ANCAP and like reduce the size of government. I get the meme, but like seriously, you see this. You see this as an important thing to teach children, and states should be involved in this process.
Me?
Yeah,
Well, he doesn't
you-
believe that because he
you're
doesn't
not-
think states should be involved, right? He doesn't think there should be a state.
What? I
You're
think
not going
it's-
to get him there.
As I say, there's a difference between what is taught in schools and what kids learn in schools. Kids will learn how to get along with each other.
But this isn't
They'll learn
unintentional.
about teamwork. But I don't
This
want
is very deliberate.
What's very deliberate?
You're as you describe it, it almost sounds like an unintentional consequence of like kids being in groups. They learn how to be in groups. We like force them into group projects.
Maybe it's an
for a
intentional
particular reason,
consequence,
right?
but the point is, it's not. There's no curriculum that says here's how you get along with each other. Kids, they figure it
But
out.
there's a curriculum that says we're going to try and make kids be better at group projects by having a certain number of group projects during the year. There is a curriculum that absolutely says that.
That's fine.
So why can't there be a curriculum that says for in our science class we're going to teach about the medical realities of what it means to be trans?
You can teach about the medical realities of what it means to be trans.
And that's right. Like we're not saying that. Say like, oh, if you're not trans, then you're bad, right? Like that's not like that. I feel like that's what you think that they're gonna be trying to teach. No, they're just trying to teach about the realities of, hey, certain people are trans. This is how they identify. These people are real and they exist, right? Like just familiarizing people with people.
Why is that in science class?
Well, because it's scientific knowledge.
Well, no, but what could be in social studies. I'm going back to the beginning when I said
in social studies.
Well, that's why but a civics class where I feel Jangles was real excited when Jangles somewhat agreed correct that having a class like that is important. Engaging with people, understanding how to, if they say they, you understand why they're saying they. I mean, it doesn't have to be from a side. Again, if you want people on the right to get on board, when you start saying things like science instead of civics and how we interact with people, you're not going to get people to agree. But if you get people to understand it's about being respectful and kind to each other, you're going to get a lot more people to agree with that.
Yeah, and if you view primary, secondary, and even post-secondary education as preparing people for the job market, to take culture out of that, to take society out of that, is irresponsible in my opinion. Like when you get into the actual workforce, the quote unquote real world, if you haven't been prepared culturally that people are going to be different than you, if you haven't been just taught as a normal part of your education that LGBT people are a thing and they just exist in society as
really
teachers and doctors and construction
school
workers
can prepare you for that? I mean, like
that's what it's there for. Isn't that what you said it was there for? To prepare us for like a career in the real world or something akin to that?
I mean, I think the way that people learn to get along with people who aren't like them is by hanging around with people who aren't like them and learning to get along with them.
Okay, but should there be some sort of facilitation by the higher school for that?
No, I don't think that's what school's for, and I don't think it would be good at that.
So guidance counselors, for example, in school, they're not just there for academics. They're there to help kids get along with things that are outside of academics. Like your home life is an important part of your education.
They're there to
how you get along with other
guidance.
students. Okay, how you get along with your other students is also important for your education. You can't meaningfully separate someone's culture, their society, and their home life, their economic circumstances. You can't meaningfully separate those from their education. I know this as a teacher. No, you can't, because I know as a teacher, the reason someone isn't showing up for class or who isn't doing well in class, a lot of it has nothing to do with their education. It has everything to do with their social environment. It has everything to do with their familiar environment. It has
is that going to change? Is that going to change the lesson of 1 + 1 is 2? I don't think it would. I'm just saying you would take that student aside as a teacher, knowing that, and go, hey, let's talk about it. I think my teacher did that with many students that had issues at home.
One of the first things you learn as a teacher is that the information is far less important than your ability to convey it. So being able to talk to a person and be able to communicate on their level as a teacher, that's your job. It doesn't matter how much you know. What matters is how much you're able to convey to another student. And that requires, it is not an optional part of the job of your teacher. That requires an understanding of society. That requires an understanding of culture. That requires an understanding of someone's home life that's going to be outside of your own experiences. So to say that
it doesn't require you to teach
education is just not correct. It is not a correct view of how we the education system.
I'm fine with teachers understanding society. I'm just not fine with teachers teaching social norms as part of the class.
1 second. Can everybody check their audio quick before me?
Audio
check.
Okay, audio check. Okay.
Check.
Okay, 1 second.
Check.
Can you all hear me?
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, so everything's cool?
Yes, sir.
Wonderful. Then none of you have any excuse that when I talk, you don't all shut the fuck up, okay? So none of you got an excuse for that, okay? Great. Good to know that for 100%. Now, I saw Red was trying to say something. I'm going to let him finish up his statement, and then we're going to go into final statements, which means everybody gets a 1-minute ending statement, and you can respond to others or say things about others or their positions during your ending statement, but you do not interrupt someone's ending statement. I don't care if they just said, Jangles, why are you smuggling AK-47 machine guns to Mogadishu, okay?
Well, I have a good answer.
Yeah, I know you have a good answer, but you can't come up and say it. That's the whole point. So we're going to start with Red with his thing, because I know he's been wanting to talk for a while, and then we're going to go into final statements. So Red, you want to say something?
Is mine the say something and final statement, or just say something?
Just say something.
Oh, thank you, sir. Something. It's hard, and I think that Logic was trying to get you guys to understand. if you want America, I'm it, right? I'm that fucking old dude. I'm the average American. I'm that red-blooded fascist fucker out here that's creating all this fuckery. I'm the one to blame right here, people. I'm that guy, okay? So if I'm sitting here telling you that I comprehend that there's physical sex organs and then there's the social construct of gender, what the fuck are we teaching in school then? Just teach the science. Let gender be handled by a social class, which could be handled by somebody completely else.
When did you learn that? When did you learn that? At what age did you learn that?
Well, that there's gay and other people not straight.
No.
Gender and sexuality.
That gender and sex are different. At what age did you learn that?
Oh, that was 49.
Okay, well, there we go.
I still don't comprehend it. That's why I'm still trying to figure it out.
Which is why it should be taught in schools.
I don't honestly.
He's 49. Are you serious?
Let's not. Okay, everybody, let's not go off. I know everybody's really old in here. You're all boomers. I got it. Okay, let's not all go off into a tangent. You're gonna all no. I know everybody's upset. Everybody gets a finishing statement. So if you have something you still want to say, you got a whole statement to put it in. Okay. So we're gonna start with the top.
Oh, sorry.
We're gonna start with the top left-hand corner with Faraday Speaks.
I don't know. I just think that a lot of this would be solved if we, again, it sounds like a meme, but if we did better social emotional learning, and then for all the rest of the stuff, we could just do very baseline education on what are pronouns, what is this, what is that, and then I think in terms of the sex stuff, you can do that on a case-by-case basis by having trained, professional, reasonable teachers, mentors, whatever. So that's really all I have to say. Oh, and I'm a straight white guy, and I don't know anything about this, and I really don't have any authority to be even speaking on this topic.
Okay, next I'm going to throw it over to LoyalLogic.
Again, my position's the same. Listen, if we're going to have this in schools, perfectly fine. I think it's reasonable. We're going into the 22nd century coming up. We'll long all be gone, but our kids and grandkids are going to have to be living in that world. It's never going to happen, unfortunately, because these disagreements keep happening. You're not going to be able to get, again, Redneck pointed out, you have to convince guys like him. And if you're not going to listen to guys like me that are on the right, that are trying to tell you how to convince people on the right, it's never going to happen. Kentucky's never going to do it. The federal government has no right to come into Kentucky and say, you're going to teach us. So if you want people from Kentucky to embrace it, you're going to have to package it in such a way to where it's not cultural and it's not political and it's not all these things, where it's the baseline. I'm for it. Let's do it. I've been a big ally of the LGBTQ plus community and having education in our school system. But if you want to convince people on the right, you're doing it the wrong way. And you can say whatever, you could sit on your streams and scream all you want. You're still not going to convince people like Redneck. It's not going to happen. And guess what? Sadly, they are in control of more counties in the country than the lefties are. So it just is what it is. But I'm totally for it. We need to have it. It's all about how, what, where, and how we do it. Faraday said it perfectly. I think if guys like him and me came together, we could get it done.
Okay, next I'm going to throw it over to last username.
All right. I think that seeing a social problem or seeing some social change that you want to happen and thinking, I know, let's just teach this change to children in public schools and that'll get it done, is an extremely arrogant and short-sighted approach that's been used in the past. It's been used to push religion on kids. It's been used. I mean, we're seeing a great example right now of a high-profile fight over public school indoctrination, right? The federal government noticed that some critical race theory nonsense was being taught in some schools, and they responded not just by getting rid of it, but by saying, okay, we're going to make a commission to teach counter propaganda in schools, like patriotic education in schools. So it's a good example of how using this, if the school is allowed to be used like that, you're going to be constantly fighting over it. A much more sensible approach is to come up with a standard that everyone can agree on about what kind of things school should be used to teach children and what kind of things it just can't. And I think kind of thing that it can't be used for is to try to push certain value systems on children. It's not, I don't see how there's any need for that. The way we learn values, we have natural ways of learning values that doesn't require mass indoctrination. And by trying to do so, all you're going to do is just escalate the conflict, right? If a kid has some values that you think are wrong, well, where do you think they got them? Probably from their family or their community. And if you try to push other values on them, what do you think their family is going to do about it? They're not going to just let you do it. They're going to push back. De-escalate that conflict. If you want to get to common understanding, you have to do it in a constructive, peaceful way that doesn't escalate the conflict. There you go.
Okay, next I'm gonna throw it over to Jangles.
All right, so just by sheer chance, I come right after last username, and I want to make it very, very clear that I don't think last username is malicious with his words, all right? I don't think he's a bad person. I think he's genuinely, he's actually pretty cool. I actually genuinely like him as a person. But everything he just said was absolute nonsense. And again, I don't think it was malicious, but we teach values in schools all the times, whether it's through extracurricular activities like sports, like marching band, like clubs after school, all of which we view as extremely important as part of the school experience because they provide things in individual families and in a lot of cases, individual communities outside of school cannot. These are important things, and because we are not able to provide them outside of the school environment, we put them in the school because it's important for kids to learn teamwork, to learn hobbies, to learn all these different values outside of an objective education in order to make them full and complete human people. And even within that educational curriculum, everything in there is subjective. Why do we include chemistry at certain levels other than other sciences? Or why do we include sciences in the first place? You might think it's a meme, but the reason we include sciences in our educational curriculum is because we believe culturally that sciences are important. I definitely agree with that. I think sciences are enormously important, but at some level, if you go deep enough, it is not objective. The reason we find science important is not scientific. And that sounds wishy-washy, but it's true at its most base level. And if we view school as a means to teach kids life skills that they would need to learn outside of what their parents could reasonably teach them, we don't reasonably expect parents to be able to teach every single scientific subject. So we expect schools to fill in the gaps. Well, it's not just objective information that's important. It's social information. It's cultural information. And to try to separate those things from an educational system, even at the most basic level, even from the elementary school level, is unreasonable. A lot of kids, we cannot assume that they're getting good information from their home life. In fact, school is a respite for a lot of broken families. And to say that school has no place in the cultural education of our students, it has no place in the societal influence of our students, is completely incorrect. And I do empathize with the fear that could absolutely be used in a wrong direction. I fully agree with you. In any sort of fascist state, Dylan, you can interrupt me when I'm out of time. In a fascist state, the schools are the first thing to go. They're only giving you the mythological pass of a state. So I 100% agree that can be absolutely used in the wrong direction. But I think that it's still, just because it can be used in the wrong direction, doesn't mean that we ought not to try to instill good values. And there will never be agreement on what good values are, but we can all try to come together as a society and come up with them.
Okay, cool. Next, we're gonna throw it over to everybody. Keeps leaving and rejoining and Xing their camera, and I have to keep messing around with these cameras everywhere. There's everybody, gotta go take a piss apparently. Next I'm gonna be throwing it over to I guess North. I've completely lost track.
Yeah, I think Jangles did a really, really good job of explaining what what it is that the goals around this really should be in terms of having an LGBTQ plus education. But I think LoyalLogic made a good point, but I think it's kind of lost in the sauce because even this topic itself, immediately, we come into it and last username is it immediately wants to say, oh, they're gonna try and teach you how to be gay, they're gonna try and teach you how to be trans, they're gonna try and teach you how to be, when that's not the suggestion at all. It's not going to teach you how to be. It's going to give you tools that you can succeed, the information that you need in order to properly treat the people around you, the realities, the medical and educational realities behind gender identity should be taught in schools. And it's not it's not oh you lefties, you're not listening to us, you're not listening to the fact that if only it weren't cultural. It's never been cultural. It's scientific. It always has been. and we're not the ones detracting from that in the first place. So yes, obviously we have to try and meet some common ground. We have to try and, you know, play towards the, you know, the attitudes of the people that don't agree with us. But on the other hand, is it in completely an honest good faith when someone immediately takes a non-political issue and immediately begins to poison it with, they're going to try and teach you how to be gay, they're going to try and teach you how to be trans? No, they're going to try and teach you about trans, right? They're going to try and teach you about gender identity. They're going to try and teach you about sexual realities, right?
Okay, next I'm going to throw it to A4 Andre. This is a great position. I just wish I could hear it.
This has turned into a conversation about last username, and I will apologize. I also want to offer something here. I don't think last username's position was that like schools are trying to teach children to be trans. I think Faraday in his introduction was explaining or trying to set a baseline for like what we're worried about. I don't think that was username's position, although I disagree with username. And Jangles did this thing where he was like, I like your username, but I like your username. You said you're like an ANCAP super soldier. I think you're more of like an ANCAP cyborg. And I wonder how like detached you are from this, because I really think that like as it pertains to the original question, we have to be teaching children social and emotional lessons, as well as very important lessons about LGBTQIA, the science of it, the history of it, the impact of it. And I think our current system does not do this. It fails to do it. I mean, this is basically my opening statement again, but like I think that we are promoting, if we are not teaching about these things, we are promoting the prejudice of these things, and I think we're creating a dangerous environment for these young people. So we, whether we do or not, no concern, I think we must do this.
Okay, next I'm going to throw it over to, I think I've gone through everybody but Endernax, so it'll go over to Endernax.
No, Red hasn't got his phone.
Oh, Red. So, okay, sorry. All the cameras keep shifting around. I can't tell, so I'll do Red first.
Let the master go first, please.
Okay, Ken, you can go.
Well, what you have to understand here is that if you're holding a moral value from your religion, hypothetically, and you send your child to school, what these cultural Marxists want to do is inundate your child into the cult of socialism. What's going to happen is Ben Shapiro will be, Bernie Sanders will be reincarnated as a cyborg in 2044. And they're hoping by this point that they'll have basically brainwashed all of your children into believing in all of this communist bullshit, okay? Yeah, that's about it.
Okay, next I'm gonna go for Red.
Hey, boss. Okay. For those of you that are professional streamers in politics, I'm not the one. I am exactly like I say I am, and I come from anecdotal Andes. I go from stories of my own. I only go from life experiences. That's why I call myself the average American, because if you think somebody like me is sitting here watching this bullshit on Twitch or fucking YouTube, y'all are crazy. If you want anything to happen, we got to make it in small steps. And if you can't define to me a scientific fact that there's a spectrum, and even though you said it colors their spectrum, fuck yeah. But it's red, green, and blue, and you can add yellow sometimes, but you still got a fucking spectrum. If you can't even give it and define that, and then want me to, if in the ethereal think, oh, yeah, baby, 2-year-old daughter, son, whatever you are of mine, I can't tell you what you are because you're supposed to tell me. Get the fuck out of here, man. I'm just saying. It's for me, it's the parents' responsibility, not the schools. I continually hear, what about those that can't educate themselves, or what about those that are unwilling to educate? Them parents should be held responsible, not the fucking school district. It's not the school district's job to put morals and the family's own beliefs into what's going on. That, in my opinion, is obscene. It's completely void of what the American is about. Americanism is about being individuals, which is exactly what the LGBTQIA plus is about, right? Your own individual identity. Well, if I want to identify as something I'm not right now, are you going to recognize it? Because if I'm the first one everyone wants to recognize as whatever I choose, it's that simple. I mean, I don't understand why we're going so deep into this and everybody's got such a crazy ideology and they want to go down these rabbit holes when it comes down to it's that simple. If I choose to identify as whatever, you just name it right now, will you accept it? That's how we're at. That's the point we're at. And I don't think it's the school to decide that. I think it's actually teach them hygiene, teach them about their body parts and what they can and can't do, and leave it at that.
Okay, we are ending our we're really ending our period on this topic, so we're going to be going on to the next one. I will make
before we do, real quick.
Oh, Frenchie. Oh, how's it going?
Hell yeah, it's Frenchie time. I just wanted to thank everyone to be here because, yeah, making putting a panel together is a lot of work. You have to find so many based panelists and everything, and you get the people who cancel last minute. So yeah, thank you for everyone to be here. And if you want to see more panel, yeah, support Dylan Burns TV. Subscribe if you can. Follow if you haven't already. Go check out YouTube, Twitter, everything.
Dylan, can you check PMs before Endernax goes?
Sure, I can check PMs. Okay, so North actually has to go.
Good, get out of here! Get out of here!
Yeah. See you later, North.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on an actual serious note, LoyalLogic. I really appreciated your.
Oh, I know. I love
and,
you, buddy.
And I think that I've never been on a panel with you before, and I didn't realize why everyone was so obsessed with you. To be honest.
Thank you.
And I can kind of see why now. So
I've been having fun. Like I don't hate anybody on this panel.
No,
I think
I hope that it's clear that I don't hate anyone. Last username, you were a very intelligent man. I have a lot of respect for you. I wish that you had a lot of respect for the state. But good to see you as always. Redneck, nice to meet you. Ken Shapiro,
Nice to meet you too.
You're a piece of shit. What else can I say? Jangles.
I don't believe in witchcraft, you heathen. So get out of here. Bye bye. Nothing of value lost. Bye bye. Bye bye.
No. But Jangles, really nice to meet you, man. I think you have really valuable perspectives and really fresh ones. So thanks so much. And A4Andre, always nice to see you. And Faraday. Didn't really know you before now, but yeah, I look forward to hopefully getting to talk with you in the future.
Excellent to meet you.
Thanks everyone. Thanks so much for having me, Dylan. I'm so sorry for dipping out. I just really I promised her to spend time with her, and I
no problem.
I feel the need to.
No problem.
Thanks. Sorry.
Okay, so Geek will be working to find another left winger to fill the slot, so we're not slanted in any particular direction.
Me and Faraday can just yell twice as loud.
I
also have an alternate identity. Mosh from YouTube.
You could dress up as Mosh. You can dress up as Mosh. I don't know how many personalities I can take in one night. As much as I love my partner run being over so I can experiment, this has been a hell of an experiment on my eardrums. So I'm going to be going on to the next topic now, and it is: should undocumented immigrants be granted in-state tuition rates for public colleges? This is an issue that I think is not really talked about that often, even though the college discussion has happened. But it's particularly, I feel like the discussion is usually, do we just pay off all the college, or not everybody get your fucking bootstraps out? And where a lot of states are going usually in the in-between. So I wanted to see if we could do something that's somewhere in between those two bigger topics, which is: should undocumented immigrants be granted in-state tuition rates for public colleges? I'm going to start this time in the top right-hand corner. Last username.
I don't know. Like so there's so many layers of assumptions I have to make here in order to provide an answer to this question. Like, I don't even want a state to exist. I want open borders, so I don't want there to be undocumented immigrants at all. And I don't want the state to subsidize education. So how do I even answer this? I'd say that you should allow people free movement across borders, which means you would have no undocumented immigrants. As long as you have rules, though, I guess you have to enforce them, which means not, if you subsidize people who enter your country illegally, it seems like, I don't know how you can, how that can be like a sort of stable policy, like providing public services to people who aren't supposed to be in the country. I mean, like I say, I'd rather everyone is allowed to be in the country, but I don't see how that's going to be politically feasible, right? Like, obviously people are going to complain about that if people do want immigration restrictions. So I don't know. I guess that's all I can really say. I don't have like strong opinions on this either way.
Okay, I'm going to throw it now over to LoyalLogic.
Thought about this. I'm perfectly, as you guys know, I'm perfectly fine with immigrants coming to this country as long as there are obviously, checks and balances. But let's say, illegal immigrants come in here. So what do? They want to go to school. Well, the solution I thought about, it's pretty meets in the middle. Again, I'm all about compromise, is that if you're in the state or, the country for a year and pay taxes for that year as an individual, then yes, you can get the in-state tuition. If you are a kid going to college, well, then your parents would have had to pay taxes for 2 to 3 years. I think this is a good balance. I think that, again, it's all about compromise because, but you're coming from the perspective, I want 2-year free college, community college, going back to, but it's not going to happen. We're not going to get there anytime soon. But I think that's a fair middle ground. I think they should be able to get some state tuition, but to have it unchecked and unbalanced, it's just going to create a system where people will come in, will take advantage of it, and we don't want that. We want checks and balances. Hopefully we all do, at least. But yeah, completely fine with it as long as there's some requirements.
And next we're going to go on Faraday Speaks.
Yeah, so I just want to say that I have no knowledge of immigration. I don't know if that would be a good idea. Maybe it would. Maybe it would be a terrible idea. My specialty is in, if I know anything, it's around radicalization, psychology, how that pertains to that, and then stuff like that. So I have nothing, but I don't know. I'll try to ask questions during this, but I have no expertise on this, so I don't want to give an opinion.
Okay, next I'm going to throw it over to Jangles.
Yeah, I said, but that's Faraday very much so in that. So I do fully so I'll try to bring it back to the topic, but I do view education as the great equalizer. Education is not a reward in and of itself. It's the value it has and what it can give you for the rest of your life. So just giving someone education is not inherently giving them something that will benefit them in our capitalistic society. It will benefit them in what they can achieve with that education. And more importantly, with the letters after the name, the diploma that an education will give them. So I think that just giving someone the opportunity for an education, because they still have to go to classes, they still have to pass everything. So even just giving them the education, they still have to show up to class every day and pass. I'm not sure that's the great gift that we're giving these kids. In terms of in-state versus out-of-state, again, it's a little bit beyond my knowledge, my really in-depth knowledge of immigration. But I think education should be free, even beyond the 2 years of community college. And by the way, I fully endorse community colleges. It's a little bit of a side, but if you're thinking about going to a community college, do it. They're actually some of the best places to get an education. And that was just my little soapbox for community colleges. So
I'm gonna throw it over now to let me check the list. It's gonna be Endernax.
Yeah, I'm gonna actually answer this one seriously, crazily enough. I mean, Ken Shapiro is real, sorry. But the issue here that I have is that a lot of times in-state tuition is used as an incentive for people who are born there. It's literally a nativist policy. It's designed on purpose to incentivize individuals to live in the state. And specifically, a lot of the times there's state taxes that are maybe not being paid as much by these individuals. I'm personally in favor of. I just want to make this clear. Ultimately, my value is that I don't think that we should have universities even. I'm in favor of just universal education centers that look very different than something that we have right now. I'm more interested in the quality of education for each individual than I am this for a system that is here's a bunch of requirements you have to meet on paper, and if you meet those requirements, we'll give you a piece of paper that says you're competent in these things. I don't think that's very good at creating experts. I don't think it's very good at allowing people who are very capable of quickly climbing up the ladder, and that's just holding society back as a whole, because we do need these people. We do need innovators. We do need people who are going to go and make the next great nonprofit or create the next great work of fiction or whatever it is, right? And so I don't like education as it's set up in the United States, as far as a year-based system where it's very culturally normal for you to have 8 years to get a PhD, or it's going to take you 12 years to get through all of public school or whatever. I think this is very outdated. I think it's very stupid. In a perfect system, this wouldn't be the case, but right now under the current rules, it seems okay to me not to offer people who aren't in a program. Keep in mind, I'm in favor of programs like Dreamers. I'm in favor of Dreamers gaining citizenship over time. Sorry, not over time. Sorry, I'm in favor of Dreamers and then DACA citizenship over time. And if they're in a program like that, I see no reason, if they live in the state, to give them in-state tuition. That's all I'll say.
Okay, next I'm going to throw it over to Andre.
Ooh, I'm excited. Should undocumented immigrants be granted in-state tuition rates for public college? Ready for the mix-up? No, they should not. I'm going to be absolutely crystal clear. I think that even out-of-state students shouldn't be granted in-state tuition prices. I think that these are too high. I think undocumented immigrants, people who live in the areas where they're going to school, and students who are relocating to different states, all deserve free college. I think this is like the simplest take, and I won't take up too much time. No, they shouldn't have to pay for it. That's the mix-up. It should be free.
And next, I'm going to throw it over to VoiceBox, who can also introduce themselves.
Yeah, hi guys. I am Mr. Nice Voice. I run the VoiceBoxTV Twitch channel. I don't really talk too much about politics on there, but I like to show up on panels such as these to bring my insight and share my opinion. And as far as this topic goes, my opinion is very similar to Andre's. I don't see any reason why education shouldn't be offered free of charge to people who are paying taxes, including undocumented immigrants who do absolutely pay taxes, whether it's sales taxes, federal taxes, property taxes in some situations. So I mean, they should have as many right as anybody else who lives in this country to get an education and have that opportunity as anybody else. So
Okay, next I'm going to throw this over to Redneck.
So what troubles me about this is the fact that as a service-connected disabled veteran, I didn't even get schooling. Right? I was supposed to get a GI Bill. I didn't get it because of special laws. I didn't use it within 10 years. I then lost it. And then because I was disabled, they decided to do a vocational rehabilitation training. But, I didn't get as much perks as what I watched other people get based off of status and those things. And it's troubling. I mean, the story is, oh, well, they pay taxes. So I'm going to give you all a hot take, and it's just my utopian vision since this is the intro. Here's my vision. Let's build a hellacious wall, right? As tall as fuck, as pretty and as vulgar as possible. Pinch point every entry point across the United States. Give everybody that wants to walk in a fingerprint. Just take a fingerprint and a picture. Give them a social security card and a driver's license if they're age. Send them into America and say, here, in the next 5 years, if you don't commit a felony or a heinous crime, now you're full-blown citizen, and every right that we have as adults is here. And I believe that schooling can be handled by this way. Everybody serves 2 years after 18. They go in the military or the social service or civil service. Different ways. Serve 2 years, get 4 years of education. I'm done. Thank you.
Based. I'm just going to say based. I'm a little nervous on the wall, but I kind of get your point. Sorry.
Faraday. I haven't opened it up.
My bad.
Okay. So, does anybody not done their intro yet? Okay, everybody has. So, I'm going to open it up to the floor, and the only person who's not allowed to take it is Faraday because he interrupted and he misbehaved. Okay.
I really don't like the beginning. I mean, perhaps the ending was based Faraday, but I hate the intro of I had a really hard time and I didn't get to go to school, so no one else. No, you should have been afforded the right. You should have gone to school, and so should others. People deserve education. I don't think that because you didn't get it.
But Andre should okay. Based on I understand. You guys want free education. We have to put that aside because, like Dylan says, we don't talk about this specific issue enough. Okay. So if we are going to do, because again, I'm for free community college, but I'm putting my position aside on that to understand. So should we verify? I want to ask both anybody that's on the left. Should we be verifying if you're paying taxes to get the in-state tuition? I say yes because it's showing you have skin in the game. You have either you or your parents have paid into it, so you should get it, even if you're not a citizen, because you are shown to be a productive person of the state.
Well, if we're sticking to the question, it doesn't say anything about paying taxes, but I can answer.
No, I'm asking you if paying taxes would be a good way to measure if you're able to get the in-state tuition.
Well, I think undocumented immigrants do pay taxes, and I think they should get it. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. I think education is a basic human right, and I think this should be afforded. But I don't want to go too far away from the question if that's what we're focused on.
Well, yeah, because so would you agree or disagree that we should verify if you are applying for in-state tuition?
No.
That you're okay. So you're saying anybody that's undocumented would get the same rate as a tax-paying citizen, no matter if they have paid taxes or not.
Yeah. So as someone who pays taxes, I contribute to a system that I hope educates people, that I hope takes care of people, and I don't I would like people to eventually to be able to contribute to the system, but if they do not, that isn't my immediate concern.
Andre, can I ask?
Sure.
Do you think veterans should get school first?
What do you mean first? This is my problem.
There's only so many slots, right? So unless you're going to greatly expand all the universities in the country and have like,
let's do it,
like more state-run universities. Okay,
sure.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, I know, but we have to work within the system we have now. Like this again, that's why Dylan said we have to because otherwise we're going to get way far away from the questions.
And Andre, I could just bring up like all the utopian shit I really want, and it would be completely off topic, but still kind of relevant because I'd be like, well, you know, in the perfect world, you know, so
we're not running out of spaces for college students. I promise you that. Maybe at like the top.
I'm going to be honest. I think college, especially university degrees, are already kind of worthless. So I don't really like even STEM majors. Like if you look just into the stats, we're not talking about like conservatives trying to pile on like qualifications. Okay, whatever you want to say. Just look at the stats. Okay, only 50% of people with STEM degrees are actually working in the fucking STEM field.
Yeah.
And if you look at, like the increase in jobs from 1990s to 2020, it's like jobs in mathematics went down. Jobs in engineering actually went down. The only fields that are expanding to meet up with the amount of people who are getting degrees in these fields are computer science and biomedical. And this is really, really important to understand because
engineering.
How angry do you get when you have a qualification and you spend years of your life getting this qualification, then you get out and they're like, oh, by the way, there's no jobs for you. That's pretty fun. That'll piss me off.
Sure.
It's a really contentious issue that I would have some pretty nuanced opinions about, but let's not get too far into that.
Yeah, because I'm completely fine with it as long as we have a checks and balance system of making sure, like I said, for 1 year. I mean, that's pretty reasonable, 1 year. Or if your parents 2 to 3 years paying taxes, and that's pretty reasonable. It's not like I'm asking for 5-10 years of taxes. So it's showing that, hey, listen, you paid a couple bucks into the state, you are a tax paying a legal immigrant.
To flip the issue on its head a little bit, why should we have undocumented people pay more to go to college?
And on
like
top
they're
of
getting an education in order to get a job to contribute
because again, the whole point is to keep.
Why should out-of-state students pay more?
It's the whole point of having.
I tested audio earlier, so anybody fucking keeps talking. I got
Jangles. The whole point
is
that
loyal. You even heard me.
He's talking to me.
Well, yeah, but I talk. And what does that mean? It means everybody stops. You really are a rat bastard, Loyal. What the hell? Okay, so, man, I loved earlier, Loyal. You were in my chat and you said "fuck you, son of a bitch," and my mods like for.
I said I called you a scumbag piece of shit because you are.
Yeah, and then the mods almost fucking banned your ass. I was like, oh, everybody chill the fuck out. But okay. There was too many people talking at once. Okay, so I do want to pass it over to Loyal, who is about to ask a question.
Well, no, I'm responding to Jangles. Is that
okay?
Listen, the reason is because it's skin in the game. So when you get that degree, you know you're going to use it in the state. You're paying taxes in the state. The degree, that's why you get in-state tuition, is because the state is going to assume you're going to use that degree in the state. If the state knows that you're going to get that degree and go somewhere else, then why would they give you a cheaper price? It would make no sense for them.
Well, I guess that's just like a nature of like our evolving economy. Like having a job in a physical location does not mean your dollar stays in that.
Yeah, but you can't say that to the college though. That's not the whole. The college is giving that rate for a reason. It's not arbitrary. They are saying like this is the reason we're giving it.
It's not arbitrary, but it is antiquated.
Yeah.
Well, but they're giving it because they're hoping that you're going to do what you set out to do by paying taxes. They're like, oh, okay, you're here, you got a foundation, you got a base, and they're hoping you're going to.
Considering the colleges are getting like 20% of their funding via taxes now, I don't think this is a contentious issue anymore.
And who's to say that you stay in that location? So you were raised there, but like, who's to say that after you graduate, you don't take this degree somewhere else? I don't.
Yeah, but your parents were. Andre. That's why I mentioned earlier about your parents. So again, it's still showing that hey, listen, even if you weren't paying taxes, your parents were. So it shows to the state that hey, if something is happening here, and you're more likely to stay here than go somewhere else.
And Red, you wanted to say something
I don't know
a second ago?
That
Yes, sir.
You were raising your hand.
Yes, sir, I did. I'm very conflicted because no one addressed my question earlier. I know the topic is should undocumented immigrants get in-state tuition, and I want to take care of my brothers and sisters first, and I can't believe that we're putting this conversation over the fact that we have 22 veterans that are dying every day because of what? Unable to adjust into society, which would probably mean if we can get them some education and or get them some different job skills or to help them deal with those things. But we're instead addressing undocumented immigrants.
Yeah, but let's hope we have.
No.
Let me finish my. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying it in the redneck racist way. I'm saying it in. I want compassion for both, but I gave you guys an option here, right? Why is it so hard for us to get them documented? Why is it so hard for us to make them actually legal? But we're talking about giving undocumented, like something that's already illegal, over somebody that's actually served and done something legal. That's frustrating. I hope you understand that.
Okay,
it's
Andre,
also
Andre is about to murder someone if I don't give it over to him.
Please,
so
because I feel like this is completely disingenuous. I have a problem with you saying first. Like there's a finish line and only one person can get the college. This is ridiculous. Yes, no. I already said no. I waited. I already said yes. I started out by saying you deserve the college and they deserve the college. And then Ken Shapiro's point of like, does this mean that we must build more schools? Perhaps it does. I don't know. I don't know the enrollment rates. I could not tell you. But I like never prioritized immigrants over you. I think your life has value and their life has value and you both deserve education. Like, I don't like the straw man. And like also to a more important point, you're talking about what like the path to citizenship. And this is something that is stupid. It is oftentimes extortion. So when you're saying like, what's the problem? Why don't they just get documentation? This is a process that isn't simple. If your suggestion if your suggestion is, excuse me, sir, that it should be more simple, then we're entirely on the same page. It is
yes, sir.
Okay.
I am saying that.
So like no,
I told you're writing a picture.
But your whole thing has been like, well, what about Redneck getting the education first? I don't care if Redneck or VoiceBox.
Okay, I'm just coming at you like this, Andre. If we can't love others until we love ourselves, and we ain't even taking care of our fucking massive problems we have internally, and then you're talking
really
about
awesome.
I'm just
Redneck. Why are you separating undocumented immigrants from military veterans as if these are two completely separate groups?
Because I am
8,000 non-citizens every year enlist in the military.
He said at the very beginning anecdotal. He brings up anecdotal points, like he's known for bringing up his personal points. That's what he said at the very beginning.
Okay, but if wait. There's been 3 people who have talked while he's been ready to respond. I really want Red to be able to respond.
So, I was under the understanding that when an undocumented or an immigrant serves, that actually accelerates that process that we all fucking hate. Again, I'm from Texas. We are born with Mexican blood in us, whether you think so or not. Like, it's a part of my culture. I am not allowed to say Hispanic because they're fucking Mexican, okay? Like, so I have a clear separation here with my understanding. And even my family, my anecdotal family tells me they want it fucking simpler. They don't want to wait 10 years or 15 fucking years or get extorted 10 grand for a lawyer to go write a piece of fucking paper. I'm telling you, I want a fingerprint and a goddamn picture. That's what I want. And I want to pinch point it and get as secure as possible. Other than that, I just don't want everybody to be focusing our resources in government that we're raising to not go towards a group that I'm directly affected by. That's all I'm saying. And and the frustration is not that I don't want undocumented people to have a chance. That's what the American dream is. I am that person. I want everyone to have that. I do. But we all talk about these things that are outside of our home, but partially in our home without even addressing what's in our home right in front of us.
I actually, okay, this is I understand you guys are going to push back and just say like, okay, well, you know, we should do both. And this is a very important point that Redneck is actually making, even though maybe you might be like angered by it, because this is constantly what I talk about when I talk about like, okay, Endernax, why are you skeptical of like open borders or immigration into the country? And it's because of exactly this. We can't even take care of our own fucking Americans. Exactly. And left-leaning people are like, okay, but let's just say hypothetically we're going to let everybody in. It really pushes a lot of these people away, because I think it is actually a valid point to put out like, hey, like middle America is dying right now. Like I don't know if you guys know this, but the opiate epidemic is disproportionately affecting a certain group of people in the middle of the country who don't have jobs anymore, who are really angry. They actually went 12% of Obama voters in these states went for Trump in 2016, which makes me think that like maybe something's not all that right in middle America. So like we need to, you're right. You know, we could do both. I understand. We can walk and chew bubblegum at the same time, but it's still important. And it's something to really hone in on, that there are these problems that need to be fixed here before we start extending those services elsewhere.
Well, yeah, if you don't bring it up at all, that this is what I've had about the not just the left, some people on the right. When you bring up one issue and don't talk about another one, again, walk and chew bubblegum at the same time, people are going to be skeptical, and that's where you should compromise and go, listen, this is happening in Middle America, but you know what? Let's try to work on a better path to citizenship for these people that are coming over, and as well with in-state college tuition.
So it sounds like, Redneck, it sounds like what you're saying is you don't really have a problem with people coming here. And it sounds like you also probably understand that we need people to come here because we need to fill jobs and we need that labor. So, I mean, I'm fine with that. Obviously, the problem is that corporations like the cheap labor, even the libertarians, as much as they talk about the border and they want to protect the border, they don't mind people coming across, sneaking across, and, you know, working at, you know, their farms for cheap. So there's a systemic issue that there has to be solved, and lefties need to like start thinking about that and get away from the moral side of it. But I agree. But it sounds like what you're saying is you don't mind these people expanding resources, but you feel a bit of a disrespect, and you feel that there's no acknowledgement of that towards veterans. Is that it?
I'm literally saying that I'm empathetic to everyone's plight. But until we learn to take care of our own issues, how are we supposed to expand and try to help others? That's what's created all this fuckery, right? As a veteran,
I really want to empathize with that because absolutely, like a lot of the poisonous rhetoric coming out of the left is like all these people from Texas and people from Kentucky. I think Logic, are you from Kentucky?
No.
Oh, you were talking about Kentucky earlier. I'm from Kentucky. Okay. But I'm from a very rural area as well. And so, like, when we talk about a lot of these rural, especially, like, Trump voting areas, is that they're stupid, ignorant, hateful people. This is poisonous rhetoric coming from the left. But I also think it's equally poisonous to talk about, like, what rhetoric is doing, like this us versus them mentality. We need to take care of our own. Who's our own? What does that mean to you? What does our own mean? Why can't we include undocumented people who have been here for 20 years, who have served in our military? Again, and this is not, I don't buy that because you're not, like, you don't have, like, a master's degree or something. It took me a 2-second Google search. Undocumented immigrants, veterans, United States. And that's where I found that 8,000 statistic. This isn't difficult information to look up. This isn't like privileged information that only somebody with the correct passcodes that we get from a university can find out. We can figure this stuff out. We can learn more about our fellow citizens, fellow non-citizens, our fellow community members. So I don't like that we have this us versus them mentality, which is so freaking poisonous to the entire discourse. We should all be us. And I know that you're not this like horrendously evil person because you are talking a lot about empathy. And I really, really dig that. I don't think you're a bad person. I think you're an awesome person. Especially a lot of the things you were saying, like Faraday was saying, was super based. But it's still that lingering seed of us versus them, of my people deserve it first versus other people.
But Jangles, come on, you understand what he means by us. He means citizens of the United States. Now, and again, us could include illegal immigrants, but again, we are having a massive disconnect to people like Redneck. That's what I said in the last topic. You're not going to get compromised if you're not willing to meet in the middle and go, you do understand what he means by us. We can't conflate this. He means citizens of the United States. It's that simple.
So it sounds like Jangles has concern.
Thanks for the still, man.
Jangles has some sort of concern that there's an underlying like sort of trope that's just sort of there, maybe not even intentionally. I have that concern too when I talk to right-wingers. I'm not going to lie. But then, so he has that concern. And then it sounds like Redneck, your concern is this, like, you feel like, again, like we're not focusing on some particular issue that you think has more weight to another particular issue.
Again, I'm simple. I know simple doesn't mean easy. Old Reagan quote. But the left does this whenever we talk simple, and Logic's trying to tell y'all. I'm being as honest with you. I am being. Look, selfishly, not to get too anecdotal, but selfishly, I started doing this stuff publicly about a month and a half ago. I share my story because I suffer from an anxiety disorder as a disabled veteran. Okay, so this stuff helps me. I didn't realize I was going to become a political Andy, but I love it. This stuff here, I have empathy for. I want people educated. I want people to be Americans. I want everybody to fucking come here. You think I don't know that we need immigrant work? I live with it my whole life as a Texan, as a native Texan. It's part of my culture as well. I'm just saying, why can't we, as a society, instead of focus on who should get what, let's focus on getting them here. legally and as fast as possible, and then giving everybody that's actually went through the legal process the education that you want. How about that? Is that easier for us to wrap our heads around? Maybe.
Well, yeah.
awesome.
I mean, it's a discussion that I mean, I've been trying to talk about this on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube. Is that, you know, we're trying to walk without seeing where we're going. It's like we need to have a clear and concise plan. I put up. Oh, it's like when I talked to Destiny about it, and Destiny liked my proposal. He said, "Listen, because Trump's in office, that would never get done." Well, we're worrying about who's in office versus just making a compromise now. Let's talk about how we can get there and where we're going and build the bridge when we get there. Let's not sit here and go, well, this and that. You know, we need to figure out what we want to do. And I think we're all in agreement that we want a clear and concise path to citizenship. What that looks like is the issue.
Okay, so one thing I do want to push back on Redneck about, because overall I do agree with wanting to make it easier for people to come into this country legally and wanting to prioritize or at least you know, help out veterans, especially people who have been through the ringer as far as our military industrial complex and then have been fallen by
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Now, I do want to push back as far as to your proposal earlier where you mentioned that you wanted people to mandatorily serve. I don't think that particular...
I didn't get to explain it all the way without everybody cutting it off. I'm sorry.
Okay, so...
It's not mandatory.
Clarify your point so that way
okay,
I can
so my dream, and so if y'all want to make me president, this is what I would do. All right, check this out. I have the solution. Everybody that's 18 right now has to do... a male in the U.S. has to fill out a selective service card, right? I'm saying open it up to everybody. Everybody that turns 18 has to sign this card. You got three choices: civil service, social service, or military service. Your choice. And let's also give them a deferment program. Do you want your college first and then go into the field of those three choices, or do you want your 2 years first and then you get to college? Completely open like it is in the military right now. It's sort of the same program. Now, for those that don't want to do any of this, there's that other checkbox. I don't care to do shit with it. But if something pops up, we already have the Conscription Act that these guys would have to then be called up, men and women, whatever, all identities. I'm literally saying it, that's how I would love to see this work. Now, I know Israel does something like this. South Korea does something like this. That's what I think would be a quick, easy utopian thing for me that wouldn't change many systems at all.
Okay. I mean, I guess you'd probably have to go into the details and the brass tacks as to what exactly you mean by civil service and social services.
Have you ever heard of AmeriCorps?
Yes, AmeriCorps is a civil service, right? Red Cross.
We can also have. We can form the. We can bring back the Conservation Corps. We can create an Environmental Corps. Yep. Yeah, exactly. Yep. There's all sorts of examples. I'm actually a huge advocate for this program, just in general. I don't even want to tie it to universal education. I want, like, I would keep this thing separate and just make it mandatory. But that pisses off a lot of people. So maybe I need to rethink my optics and just go, hey, actually, you know, if you want free education, this is what you got to do. But
understand, I'm even saying that I'm even willing to then concede that if we did this, then you're talking about healthcare as well, because the Veterans Administration, which is what they're trying to model a universal healthcare after anyway, would already have a plethora of these people already serving under that auspice. Because of course they're going to have to cover the medical while they're sending them to school. I mean, it's a win-win all the way. Yeah. I think everybody wins.
I think
from Redneck 2024.
What I really like to see, I love the idea of a civil service program. I've thought about this for a while. I'm not going to go into all the reasons because it would be a whole nother topic. And I do want it to be mandatory, which I'm open to suggestions on off stream. But I mean, what I'd like to see, honestly, like, it's a huge liability having Mexico at our southern border in the state that it's in. It's a huge liability. I mean, there's crime down there. There's drugs coming out of there. There's sex trafficking going on. Huge liability. And again, people are enemies. They can use that against us. They could foment fights down there. They can foment drama. And now you can do it all through Facebook. So it's huge liability to have them in that state. I'd like to see us building that relationship up, helping the people down there, supporting the people in the government down there that are in our best interest, and then start to open up like a trade federation and open it up with Canada as well. And like in terms of these jobs, people are going to have to start moving all over the world. That's another thing people are going to have to understand, because we're developed, like where all the places are that there's work, they're developing places. The U.S. is already pretty much developed. We can go through and revamp it, but jobs are going to run out. Like there's only so much work to go around, and you have a lot of people that are not capable of doing engineering work, and even that is going to fill up. So,
well, this is why I think we have to reimagine.
Well,
the future of work.
It's
not just
let VoiceBox get in because he didn't get to respond.
Yeah, no. As far as the programs, I would be for them being at least optional. The way you described it, Redneck, especially because there are certain fields that people will want to pursue that won't allow them necessarily to have the opportunity or time to delve into those civil programs or social programs or anything, because there's myriad aspects of what people are going to look for as far as their professions, and that might not afford them the time to participate in those systems. Now, to Faraday, when you mentioned these issues here with what's going on south of the border, I would say, now this is kind of going off the weeds here for a little bit, but I do want to say that the best way to address the issues of drug trafficking and human trafficking, as far as prostitution and stuff, legalize, tax, and regulate all drugs and prostitution. That's going to make it so that way we don't have this crazy black market. That
it didn't stop it with weed. VoiceBox. What are you talking about? The Colorado weed?
Weed's not federally legal and tax and regulated.
But in Colorado, but I'm saying, but I want to make a point though that this is the same thing I talked to Basti about. Is that if you go to Colorado, the black market for weed in a place that's legal is still as big, if not bigger.
Nope.
Well, okay. Well, then, okay. Well, I'm telling you, it is. Street weed is cheaper.
Where do you live? Where do you live? Where do you live?
I live in California.
No shit, I'm in Colorado. That's crazy. The black market for weed is largely decreased as someone who smoked before and now. This is just factually inaccurate. That's
so
not
street weed is not cheaper than weed in the store.
Oh, I don't know. I don't buy street weed, but you're saying that the market is as large as it used to be, and I'm saying that it is.
Yes,
not.
of course it is.
No, it is not.
Okay, that's fine because you don't go to
Washington. Hey, wait, just so you know. So you know, the violent crime rate actually went down in Colorado after.
Oh no, I wasn't. Yeah, no, I wasn't. That's not the point I was making. I was just talking about this.
Well, no, but that's but these are like
you reduce societal ills by legalizing, taxing, and regulating these things, these vices such as drugs and prostitution, because in that sense you disseminate the black market that exists, and you allow for systems in place that will protect the people that are not only purchasing and using these services, but also the people that are producing and working in these fields. So you're going to mitigate a lot of the problems and societal ills that you see currently with those systems. So, I mean, if you disagree with that, then I mean, just look at the way it worked with the Prohibition era, where the mafia was able to control so much of the alcohol market, and it led to just hot wars in the street over selling, different types of alcohol. So, we don't see that anymore. You don't see bloodbaths over who's gonna sell whiskey or who's gonna. It's an antiquated problem.
Redneck wanted to respond, but like,
yeah, I was about to say, I don't want to get into
I love you guys.
We'll talk about it another time.
So here's the thing, like the mob.
Well, we just said Redneck wanted to respond.
Yeah, go ahead, Redneck.
And then okay, Redneck, come on.
How are y'all doing tonight?
Good.
Y'all good?
Great. We're good. Good.
Everybody good? I mean, did y'all assume I was just going to be the one stepping on everybody and being an asshole?
I can't wait for my turn. Next round, I'm going to do it.
Dude, I can't wait for you to do it either, because you've been pretty quiet, and I've been looking forward to you slamming some hammers. Look, I didn't try to derail it or strawman it or take the argument away from anything other than your position. Those of you that are talking about the undocumented side of it have an empathy for someone else that is in a very disadvantaged situation, right? And I'm trying to say it's wholeheartedly an issue, but please think about your brothers and sisters that are here right now. Yes, you got cousins, you got extended family, but you can't bring more people into your home and help them until you can actually help your own home.
But
And that's
reason,
all I want to make sure.
Yeah, I appreciate your sentiment. I think you're coming from a good place. But I don't think that the reason that we can't take care of the people is because there are too many people. And if we add more people to this, I don't think this is what's causing the problem. So I would say that like that these are separate, that we could introduce more people while fixing the current problems.
Okay. But why can't we? I don't understand why we can't try to fix the problems and then as we're doing that. I mean, it just seems like you're going, oh, I understand you, Redneck, but let's just go with it anyway and not.
No. So Redneck is saying like there are two problems here, right? One that undocumented citizens or illegal citizens don't have access to this thing, and current citizens don't have access to this thing, right? I'm not strawmanning your point. You're saying it's a problem that both don't, right?
Redneck, he's talking to you.
No, I mean, I know he's talking to me, but I'm sitting here trying. I mean, he's.
I think it is a problem that both groups don't have access to education,
that don't have access
right?
to this.
I feel like this isn't a gotcha moment. I'm just
No, sir. No, trust me. I'm not. You think I'm worried about gotcha moments? You guys already got fucking so many memes on me. It's hilarious. I approach things in steps, right? I mean, in the military, in a simple-minded people, we think about the problem as a whole, and then you're given a piece to chew. Right? Like they use the old analogy, how you're going to eat a whale one bite at a time.
So the piece to chew for you, I would ask, is like, what if the problem isn't the amount of people trying to get into college? Because what you're suggesting is that this is the problem, that so many people are trying to get into college, veterans and immigrants, that if we try to shoehorn them both in, that immigrants will get forgotten. And I'm saying maybe that's not the case. Maybe it isn't.
I'm saying that veterans have been forgotten.
Bro, like, holy shit.
But I'm saying you're advocating, hang on, brother, but you're advocating to extend the government to fix this, but they can't even get it fucking right with the people we have in the house.
That's what he's saying.
But you're ignoring what I'm saying, which the problem is not the amount of seats. This is like, you're saying that the problem must be because, right? Like, I think that the problem isn't just that like veterans and illegal immigrants are trying to get into college and the doors aren't big enough. I think the problem.
No, he's saying they're not giving them. No, he's not.
I'm not saying that.
He's not. You're misunderstanding.
Somebody translate for me.
He's literally saying that. Listen, why are we going to work on legal immigrants getting college tuition, whatever, free college, whatever, when we can't even work on the process of getting our veterans that same service? Wouldn't it make more sense to work on our own citizens first, and then
this would be true? Yeah, hear me out.
Whether or not we should give illegal immigrants or undocumented immigrants in-state tuition. That's why we're talking about this. It's not like we were talking about veterans, and then we decided, well, what about undocumented immigrants?
But Jangles,
we're talking about this topic.
I know, Jangles, but I'm just it just got this way. I don't know how.
Jangles, it got this way because I'm trying to. I was not trying to strawman it, but I did. Right? I gave you the choice here. You want to take resources. You want to make sure to allocate resources for undocumented when we don't even allocate those for our fucking veterans right now.
Why?
And that's
okay,
problem.
But here's let me use a simple Jangles. May I do a quick analogy?
Why should we care about veterans when there are kids in poverty who can't go to college? All right, veterans, maybe they have they've got the paycheck. Why we have all these poor kids who are starving? Why?
Is that the side you want to say?
You see what that is?
This is no. Like,
you have that morality?
I think he's raising a valid point. Okay, listen. Stupid analogy. Just go with me anyway. Veterans can't eat. Immigrants can't eat, and poor children can't eat. These three groups can't eat. If the problem is that we don't have enough food, then we can talk about the order in which people eat. But if the problem is not that we don't have enough, if we have enough food to feed these three groups, then why are we talking about who gets to go first? Do you see what I'm saying?
Wait, so you don't think that we should prioritize?
You're not listening. You're not listening.
I'm saying let's not prioritize a single group. Let's just focus on getting all the groups all the help, because we do actually have the resources to do it. But instead of allocating those resources towards actually helping people, our government simply gives fucking subsidies to rich corporations and their corporate donors, because it's much easier to say fuck all to all those groups, including poor children, including veterans, including undocumented immigrants. They don't give a fuck. So
you keep framing this as if there's not enough. If there were enough, then we wouldn't need to talk about who goes first, right?
No, he's saying that the resources we have, we aren't even managing correctly. It is not about enough.
Correct.
Listen. He is, again, you're not, there is enough resources. but we are not even managing when we have enough resources. So if we're not managing enough when we have enough resources, shouldn't we go problem by problem and fix it?
Or we can.
To me, it seems very reasonable. He's not saying don't do anything with illegal immigrants. Neither would I ever say that. He's saying let's go step by step, walk and chew bubblegum at the same time to get to the bridge so we all can walk over it.
I feel like you're not hearing me, but I don't know if that's intentional or not.
Well, you're just saying do it all. But that's the problem is you're not, Andre. You're not understanding. You're not going to get people
divorce yourself from education, because I think this is something like if we were to say that like there is enough apples, if everyone gets to have an apple, if we can give everyone an apple, should we not? You're saying yes, we should. You're saying we're not good at distributing apples. I'm also saying we're not good at distributing apples. Don't you think since there are enough apples, we just give everyone an apple and focus on the two problems separately, right? And not prioritize like...
That's not how it works, but that's not how the government works. And you know that.
Talking about a specific issue when you introduce this other group into it.
Right.
Like
I made my position clear at the beginning about
you can't complain about, oh, well, we have to take things one at a time when we're talking about one of those things that we would do one at a time. And you introduce this other topic, this other group.
I introduce it, so.
Well, I know, but
I introduced it because I said, why can't we go first?
The problem is that Redneck didn't like that we were talking about this. He would rather have a discussion about veterans instead in this situation.
I want to go back to my original point then. Let's get back on track. So if we are going to allow, which is perfectly fine, I am still going to hold the same position of if somebody individual wants to go to college, they pay taxes for a year. If not them, then their parents for 2 to 3 years. Do any of you disagree with that? I think that's a very easy way to have checks and balances. Andre obviously said no. What does everybody else think about that? It's right on the topic. Yeah, I mean, it's right on the topic. Has nothing to do with veterans.
Nothing for undocumented until they fix our shit.
Okay, so that's Redneck's position. So, okay, we know Redneck's position, so let's not even, okay. So, VoiceBox, what's your position? Are you willing to say, okay, listen, if they're paying taxes, if they're a legal immigrant, they still can get in-state tuition?
Yeah, if we're gonna stay on topic, absolutely. Why not?
Okay, so you're saying, listen, if they pay taxes, you're willing to meet in the middle, they can get in-state tuition.
Sure, yeah.
Okay, yeah, because that's my position. I'm fine as long as they're paying taxes in the state and we can show they're paying taxes or their parents are paying taxes. I think that's a completely middle ground position.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm going to say nothing for veterans until we fix our shit. And I'm not going to define what our is.
Ooh. You guys want to keep going back to veterans? I mean, that's fine.
I mean, I've already established that undocumented immigrants is included in veterans. Because these are not separate groups.
Yeah.
Undocumented immigrants absolutely are veterans. And so, but Redneck continues to separate them. Like we can't like.
I'm trying to move on past it, Jangles.
I know you're trying to move on.
Well, okay, then move on past it. Jangles, then move on past it.
Hold on, you're not the host.
No, but I mean, you guys are complaining about. Wait, no, Dylan, you guys are complaining about it, and I'm trying to.
Hey, Jangles, I got you covered.
Wait,
Dylan, give it to us.
Okay, Loyal. Could you say that again?
Yeah, I'm trying to change.
Okay, so when it comes to what we're gonna be doing here, I don't. While I'm fine with you all kind of guiding the conversation yourself, it does make my job easier. I am still interested, and if you want to kind of retouch something else and go back to it, that is perfectly fine. Loyal, what specifically were you trying? Was the contention here with Jangles? That Jangles was bringing up something before. What was?
Okay, but it keeps going back to he's introducing veterans to the conversation, and I'm like, okay, that's perfectly fine. Let's go away from it. But then when I point that out, Jangles is going right back to it. It's like, okay, let's move on from it.
Conversation, who I'm also talking to, and I know, but I agree. Like that is, I didn't help the conversation get back on topic. I agree. I apologize for that.
Jangles, I'm just saying, if the 8,000 that you're referencing, if we took care of the veterans first, they're fucking veterans. They would already get the schooling. So your point is about not the veterans. It's about undocumented people who haven't already started a process of legality gaining citizenship in the current system we have. I mean, okay. I don't understand how this is so fucking stupid for me to say. I don't.
It's introducing a needless divide between the issues. All right,
They
we can
signed
address
up to
those.
serve their fucking country. The other ones just came here and said, "Give me shit."
Hold on. Do you think that getting an education and getting employed in our country is not serving our country in some way? Do you think an undocumented immigrant being educated as a
cringe.
doctor or a social worker or any of the actual the reason we get an education is so you can serve your country. Military is not the only way to serve your country.
Yeah,
I would even
I'm
argue.
gonna be honest. I'm gonna be honest. I'm not gonna walk up to somebody working at a corporation and thank them for their service to our country. It's just not gonna happen, you know.
Well, maybe we can address
earlier you advocated.
I guess.
One at a time, please.
Earlier, Jangles, you literally placed sick, dying, starving children against veterans.
Did you understand why I did that?
Fuck no, I didn't. Please explain.
Did you think that was actually like making an actual serious point?
I hope to God you were, because you had a veteran included in it, and I'm here. So
because that I was demonstrating how fucking stupid that is when we're talking about one group to introduce. Well, what about this other group? Do they not deserve something? That was the purpose of me bringing up the 6 starving children.
I gave you a perfect analogy to your fucking situation, and you don't like it.
Except you didn't.
You're perfect. Move on. Let's go.
All right.
Okay. I'm gonna. Okay. Jangles. Okay. Look. I'm just doing an audio check because just making sure everybody can hear me. So, I'm just gonna clarify this because I can see the divide that's happening here, and then we're gonna go into closing statements because I want to go into the last topic, which I'm really excited about because it's gun control, and I think Andre is harboring some illegal ones right now.
I'm sorry, that was cringe. I don't know why I did that.
Don't worry. You've just destroyed my channel forever. They're gonna remove it, not for Twitch violations, but for like international war crimes of arms smuggling. But I wanted to clarify that I think what Jangles was trying to get at was that a lot of times when you're having conversations that somebody will bring up like, well, we should have health, we should give this group healthcare, and someone else brings up, well, what about this group? And then what it becomes is a match of like kind of the Olympics of, well, what about this group, then what about the group of poor starving kids? And what if not the poor starving kids, what about the poor starving disabled kids? Or not the poor starving disabled kids, what about the poor starving disabled orphans? And then you get into like kind of like, well, we can't do anything because we haven't done anything about the poor starving disabled orphans who are blind, right? And then that's a kind of, I think that's the point he was wider trying to get at.
This is why whataboutism sucks.
Well, I just want to transition into closing statements. I just wanted to clarify that because I think there was like some contention there. Okay, we're gonna start in the bottom left-hand corner with Andre this time, actually.
Yeah, I think it's really cool to sort of like bring this back together. I think it's really cool that like everyone on the panel has, to different degrees, expressed an interest in making education available to illegal immigrants. I think that's dope. No one here today was like illegal immigrants shouldn't get education. So to like LoyalLogic and Redneck, even though we went back and forth and disagree on like the order of operations, I still think that like the fact that you have concern for these people is like, cool. I think we're all on the same side. Yeah.
And next, I'm gonna throw it over to VoiceBox.
Yeah, I'm pretty much in the same boat here. Yeah, I'm glad that we can all agree that, even undocumented immigrants deserve a shot at education at a fair price, let alone our varying degrees of what that price would be. And then again, the order of operations, the PEMDAS of who gets what.
I love that.
So I mean, as long as we're able to help everybody, right? That's at the end of the day, like that's what's important, right?
Well, without PEMDAS, math wouldn't work.
Endernax breaking the rules. I'm gonna have to ban Ken Shapiro from all future show appearances. I'm sorry, Ken Shapiro is gonna be banned. I'm gonna have to send it over now too.
We don't get banned.
Okay, let's throw it over to last username.
Okay. So the ideal situation is that you have free movement, so anyone can come in the country, anyone can go to university, but the state doesn't pay for anyone's post-secondary education. That's the ideal. If the only issue on the table is should undocumented immigrants get education subsidies, I'm gonna go with no, just because I think of all of those different issues, the subsidy is the one that matters most, that I think matters most. The fewer people that get subsidies, the better. No particular reason that undocumented immigrants should be the people who don't get the subsidy, but since that's what's on the table, I guess I'll just say no.
Full. Next, I'm going to throw it over to Jangles.
Yeah, so I do believe that you can hear me, right? Yeah, so I do believe that education is the great equalizer. And so when we have anybody who is wanting to get an education, that education, we're not gifting them any sort of like material gains by giving them that education. We're giving them an opportunity not only to further their own material interests, but also to serve the broader public by employing jobs that require that education in the first place. So doctors, lawyers, engineers, social service workers, and all that stuff, they require this education. And so in like getting as many people this education as we can at the lowest cost as we can, so that would include in-state tuition, is going to fundamentally help everybody. I don't understand that there's not this zero-sum game. So for the record, I think Redneck is come at this from a place of empathy. He wants what's best for everybody, but I think that he would do well to realize that it isn't a zero-sum game. We don't have to compete undocumented immigrants with we don't have to compete against veterans for this. It's not a zero-sum game. The colleges wouldn't be recruiting for more and more enrollments if that were the case. All right, there's a lot of spaces for everybody, especially if we include our scope beyond like top institutions. I said before, and I genuinely believe this: community colleges are one of the best places to get an education because they are so student-focused. It's a broader education thing that I could get into later, but I won't take up any more time. So,
okay. Next, I'm going to throw it over to Ken Shapiro.
We wouldn't even be complaining about this if colleges didn't have so many fucking admins. The one of the major contributors to the rising cost of education in the United States, to the point where it's raised like over 300-400% over what the inflation rate has been, is administrative costs. So colleges hired a fuck ton more administrators, started paying them to do things, and they're not necessarily things that need to exist for a college to function well. I think we moved away, in large part in our education system, from what education should be, which certainly is not college sports teams, to be honest. I don't know why these sports teams even exist, to be completely honest with you. These institutes, I know, Dylan, but they shouldn't exist to the extent that our universities, our higher education system should be entirely focused on education and academia, not whether or not your sports team can beat the other sports team. And it just seems rather silly to me. I don't really have anything else to add. I will say that under the current system, not a big fan. I think that with a couple of solutions, a couple of things put in place, whether that's like a pathway to citizenship, I'd be much more on board. Bringing these people out from the shadows, I think would actually do a lot. And I think one of the ways we can do that is I'd be fine with in-state tuition for these people. Again, but fuck higher ed also. Fuck the university system. Fuck undergrad degrees. Fuck associate's degrees. Fuck PhD degrees. Fuck master's degrees. They're all stupid, okay? It's all fucking dumb. People who get college degrees are literally not much smarter than anybody else, okay? They just showed that they were willing to go and spend a fuck ton of money and get a stupid fucking degree, okay? Anyways, I'm done. Bye.
Okay, next I'm going to also, just to be clear though, Endernax, my sports team could totally beat your sports team.
True.
Next I'm going to throw it over to Faraday.
Okay, well, the only thing I'd like to say is the southern border is a huge liability, just like our inner cities are a huge liability, just like Appalachia is a huge liability. We cannot allow these liabilities to continue, because right now in the United States, a big problem why you're seeing all these people get inducted into QAnon and alt-right and cults and all this nonsense, because they're uneducated, they live in a bad economic system, and they don't know what the hell to do, and the system is failing them. So that needs to be fixed, and if that means giving people on the southern border citizenship or giving them college education and then slowly over time integrating them into the broader American project, that's something I'd like to do. I think that there should be an opening up for leftist organizers on the ground, people doing mutual aid projects, to be able to help do that. And I also think that has to happen on a government level. And, I really like the idea of a civil service program. I think it is going to give, as Jangles said, you can't just give people education. They won't use it. I went to a community college and they didn't use it. They fucked off. So a civil service program, I would make it mandatory. Anybody coming into the country would have to do it. Gives direction. It gives, the education, and helps people grow in a sustainable way instead of just dumping money with no return. That's my piece. But again, that's all my opinion because I'm not educated on this issue.
Okay, next I'm going to throw it over to LoyalLogic.
Yeah, I mean, again, I go back to it. Having skin in the game is important. As long as you are paying a year of taxes or your parents are paying 2 to 3 years in taxes, I don't see it being a problem. The bigger issue, it seems to be, is, illegal immigrants coming in here not having a pathway to citizenship. I agree. I've advocated for faster, more judges, better border patrol, better, everything. I mean, I even go as far as we should have job centers at the border. So when people come in, they have an opportunity to say, hey, where's their work? Where can we go? Can I get a bus there? I mean, there's lots of things we could be doing, but again, with education, it's simple. If they are putting skin in the game, if their parents are putting skin in the game, there's no reason they shouldn't get it. If you aren't, then you shouldn't get it. It shouldn't be tied to if they're citizens or not. It doesn't matter either way. If you're paying taxes, I think you should. Now, as far as citizens, well, they don't pay taxes. Well, their parents were citizens. Their parents before them were citizens. So, but yeah, I'm perfectly fine with it as long as there's some checks and balances. Let's go. More immigrants, more money. It all works out for everybody in the end.
Okay, next I'm going to throw it over to Redneck.
Thank you, sir. So I know everybody didn't like my whataboutism, but I had to use something that would that I could comprehend and have personally been affected with to bring this subject to light, i.e. the bottom line is until we fix what's happening in our own homes, we can't do the things that we're trying to do because resources are already being diverted. I could give you, if you look at a map of all the health and human services in the state of Texas, where a majority of their buildings are, they're along the border. Why? Is that where the highest need is? Wouldn't you think it would be inside the bigger cities like Houston, Dallas, Fort Worth, San Antonio, El Paso? Another thing is school's the same way, right? We have an influx of people that don't stay. They're undocumented. They come in, get an education, and bounce right back out. But that's okay as well. I want our own family taken care of so we can then extend our family and our outreach. That's what I want. I want our government to fix the problem. I don't want us to keep bullshitting and talking about it. And the narrative gets lost for Americans like me who are sitting here just trying to be compassionate, conservative, compassionate, and have empathy for those that are disadvantaged. I want to help them, but I can't help them unless I can help my own and my own children and my own family and my brothers and sisters who served with me already. And just to give the numbers, he came up with 8,000. There's also another 650,000 nationwide that are undocumented that are going to try to get educations, and about 65 of those get free education directly. That's strictly undocumented immigrants. The population for veterans is less than that. It's only 30,000. So that's what kind of frustrates me. It's ingenuous to say that this isn't a situation that's not a whataboutism because it's a factualism. We're outsourcing our own internal service to help others before even helping ourselves, and I just can't. It just troubles me. That's it.
Okay. We're going to go into opening statements to the next topic. And just to be clear, the last time you can address this topic is in your opening statement to the next topic. So if anybody said anything towards you or directed at you that you feel like you want to be able to respond to, this would be your final opportunity during your opening into the next topic. So the last topic of the night is, should laws restricting gun ownership be increased or decreased? I'll repeat the question one more time. Should laws restricting gun ownership be increased or decreased? This can get into specifics about who should be able and who shouldn't be able to own firearms. Like, for example, if someone was like, well, somebody with a violent history shouldn't be able to own firearms, or somebody with a criminal past, period, shouldn't be able to, or maybe, well, it's every American who should be able to. You can get into specifics. I'm going to start this time with the bottom right-hand corner with last username.
So, I guess the answer depends on what law you're talking about. There's all sorts of proposed laws. I think, generally speaking, there seem to be a lot of places in the states that have overly oppressive restrictions on firearms. I'd like to see those go away. I'd like to see firearms be available to everyone in every part of America, urban and rural. It's something that, as a Canadian, I'm quite jealous of, that Americans are treated as people who have the right to defend themselves, and Canadians are sort of treated as like government pets who must be taken care of. As far as let's see, some comment suggestions like like I've never heard any really amazing suggestions for gun restriction laws that I think would actually make a big difference and are really feasible and fair. I've often heard about red flag laws, allowing people to sort of like point out that someone is a bit sketchy and they shouldn't have a gun. I think that's really dangerous because it basically allows someone to be accused of something by someone who has no real authority to do that and thus have their rights taken away. I think the idea of if you have a mental disorder that you shouldn't be able to own guns, I think that's basically you can see that just as much as a prohibition on receiving mental health treatment as it is a prohibition on guns, because you're saying to someone, well, you have to choose between your gun rights and getting your mental disorder checked out. And very often you might find that people choose the gun rights over getting the mental disorder treated, which is obviously not what you want. So I think that would be a very that law would have very reverse consequences. I mean, I guess we'll just let's just see which particular proposals people come up with for what gun laws they'd like to they have in mind, and then I'll comment on those.
Okay, next I'm gonna throw it over to Ken Shapiro. Oh,
hi.
There you go. Come on. No, okay.
Let me put it this way. Okay. I believe that owning a firearm is something that is intrinsically good for America. I personally am of the mindset that the main problem right now is oftentimes access to training and understanding how to properly use and store a firearm. There's a lot of accidental deaths. There's a lot of mishandling of firearms. I'd be in favor of such a law that said, hey, if you come take this safety course, you learn how to store your gun, you learn how to shoot your gun, you learn different aspects, different rates at which people have accidents with guns, et cetera, et cetera. A 4-hour course will give you a $200 stipend and a small gun safe to go buy your first gun. I think that it's fine. I think it's part of being an American is owning a firearm, to be honest. Anyways, yeah, that's it.
Okay, next I'm gonna throw it over to Redneck.
Yes, sir. Everybody should have a gun. Everybody should have a suitcase nuke. Everybody should have flamethrowers, cluster bombs. I don't know, any weapon that somebody else can own. I want one too. And when it comes to limiting it based on mental conditions, I get a little touchy there, because as a person that's identified and told that I have a mental disorder, I'm actually the opposite though. I'm not a violent one. I don't want to commit violence. I don't want to go out and just rampage on people, but they seem to think that all mental illness means that you'll just snap one day. So that's a slippery slope, my friends. And how do we address that one? So I'll concede that that's an issue, but I'm full on open everything, open it all. Let's go. Everybody, no laws, gun ownership all the way.
Okay, I'm going to throw it over to LoyalLogic.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty simple. Let's just have background checks. Very easy, simple. I do think, though, there are some limitations that are very weird. If you pass a background check and you have no prior history, I don't see why your magazine capacity should be limited. It just doesn't make sense. If you're legally abiding, you've done good things, there's nothing to indicate, then there should not be a limit on your magazine capacity. As far as mental disorders, it's tricky. But that comes into the thing where, well, listen, a psychologist or whoever you go to, if you're talking about killing people, they have to report that. So I hear what you're saying, Red, but I think that they're not going to find out about your mental disorder unless someone's reported on you. And if they've reported on you, then they had reason to believe you were going to do something. And I kind of get what you're saying, but most of the time it's not happening. And the cases that you see where people are getting their guns taken away because of mental issues, it's justified. But there are cases that you can look to, you can point to and say, hey, something's going on. But there is a very weird anti-gun culture in the United States. I don't understand why. It's a right. There's nothing you're gonna do about it. I think anybody that's anti-gun, okay, that's fine. So it's a right. You could say all you want. No guns. It doesn't make a difference. It's a right. What we should be really talking about is increasing background checks, making sure people that are good citizens are getting guns, because those are the ones that are going to be defending you when things go bad. That's it.
Hey, I'm now going to throw it over to Faraday Speaks.
Okay, so here's my issue with guns, and this is one I came to recently. Before this, I was super pro Second Amendment, and most of the reason was this bullshit idea that you're going to fight the government. I just want to say that's really dumb. You're not going to fight the government. I mean, you're really not. And all those Mujahideen and those Vietnamese, they're not fighting. They're not successfully fighting the government because they have AK-47s. First of all, a lot of the weapons that they use are copper IEDs. Those are illegal. Those are completely illegal. The second thing is they're getting foreign intervention and foreign help. So if we're ever in a situation where we have to fight the government, don't worry. China and Russia will drop off pallets of RPKs and RPGs, and you will get your guns that you need to fight back. My issue with guns are this. It's not the school shootings. It's not the murder rates. Those things are horrible. My issue with it is guns radicalize public spaces. They heighten tensions. When we carry guns in public, we normalize those guns. So I want no more public carry, none. No concealed carry, no AR-15s at rallies, none of it. I also want to reform the police. And once we've reformed the police and we've segmented off the roles that they actually should be doing, I want to increase police presence nationally. I live in DC. There's a cop on every street corner. You know how safe that makes me feel? I don't feel like I need a gun when I have that. So basically, I want German gun laws. I want it to where if you want AR-15s and all that stuff, have it at the gun range. Have it a special permit where that shit's in your safe at home. And we could also talk about, there's some people that live out in the country. People need guns for wildlife. People need guns for intruders. We can talk about that. I support the red flag laws. And then finally, safety courses aren't going to fix the problem. Safety courses will only teach people how to use guns more effectively. And that's the problem, is that they know how to use them. But yeah, other than that, I don't want to talk about magazine capacity and all that because those laws are dumb. They make no sense.
Okay, I'm going to throw it over to VoiceBox.
So, I'm kind of somewhere in the middle between Faraday and the people on the right on this. For the most part, I agree with definitely keeping guns out of the public eye as much as possible. I mean, first off, people talk about defending themselves, and if you can't throw hands, I mean, we saw what happened to Mr. George Zimmerman, who stalked a teenager and couldn't fucking fight him off, so he had to be a little bitch and pull out the hand cannon because he couldn't fucking duke it out, even though he was a larger individual who by all stretch of the imagination had the advantage in that. So I think if you're one of those people who feels like they need a gun and you're able to fight, just take a defense course. Maybe Andre will teach you how to use your arms and your legs. But in all seriousness, I really do think that guns, you can have them. I just don't see why we need to have more guns in this country than people. I also don't see why people need to own what Redneck was saying, suitcase nukes and cluster bombs and flamethrowers and tanks and all this bullshit. There's really no need for all these crazy weapons
because I can. Fuck.
Right, but I'm not seeing the utility in that. And also, Faraday brought up the most important part of his speech was that he said that you're not going to fight the government. That's true. Cletus with the 22 is not going to take on our armed forces. That's just not fucking happening. And it's ridiculous and disingenuous to think that you could. Nobody here is John Wick. Nobody out there is going to just fucking annihilate people. And one other thing I do want to point out is that I do think that the safety courses and that kind of stuff, that's the one disconnect Faraday and I have, because I think that it is effective to have those types of trainings. More importantly, not just for being able to handle a firearm properly, but being able to store it properly. I think that is important because we have morons who go online and show videos of of little girls carrying pistols akimbo style and shooting them like this, and it's just like, what are you fucking doing? Don't do that. This is why we need proper safety courses so people can actually learn how to properly store and shoot firearms in the first place. So I think that is more effective than how Faraday pointed out. But
I actually agree with you, VoiceBox, about that. But
okay,
I do want to throw it over now to Jangles. Great point. I wish I could hear it.
All right, there we go. Sorry. It was a great point. You'll never hear it, unfortunately. So I do want to. You did say we could do this, and unfortunately, I'm one of the last ones to speak. But I wanted to just address something from the previous round. If you have the mentality that we have to address our own before we can help other people, that's a never-ending cycle. You'll never address our own problems to the extent where we're at the position where, okay, now we can address other people. So it's a fancy and long way of saying let's never help other people. So that's kind of what that is. As far as the gun arguments, I'm conflicted on it. I don't have any super strong opinions on prescriptive elements. I will say I am American. I like my gun. I am a gun owner. I like my gun, and I like the idea of being able to defend my home with it. But I wish we could be honest and say that the reason we have guns is to kill other people. That's why we have them. When we say defend our property, well, no, when we say defend our property, what we mean is I'm going to kill someone who enters my home. And even to a larger extent, I want to defend what's mine and defend my place in society. What that means is, the only thing that means is I'm going to kill other people in order to achieve my political goals. That's what that means. To defend your property is to defend your, that is to kill another person in order to maintain what's yours. And to a larger extent, an unrealistic, but still, it doesn't matter if it's unrealistic, it's still in our heads. What if the government tries to oppress me? I don't want to be without a firearm or some means of self-defense in order to keep that from happening. So that is what that means. As unrealistic as that is, I wish we could be honest with it. I also wish we could be honest that the price we pay for gun laws in the United States, which is also where I live, is that necessarily more people are going to die from guns. We have one of the highest rates of gun violence in any sort of developed country, and it is undoubtedly, and if you disagree with this, you're wrong. The reason we have such high rates of gun violence in this country is because guns are so widely available because of lax gun laws. And that includes not only interpersonal gun violence, but also just having a gun in your home is more dangerous than not having a gun in your home, because unfortunately suicide and mental health, it's linked to this gun violence problem as well. Most gun deaths are via suicide, and we can't pretend that guns have nothing to do with the suicide problem. So we should be honest and say that I'm willing to accept that 30,000 people or however many it is are going to die every year for guns, because that's a worthy price to pay for my right to own a firearm. We should be honest with that. We should be able to grapple with those facts and not pretend it's something other than guns that is the reason this statistic is so high.
Okay, I'm going to pass it over to... I actually wanted to get water a while ago, but I'm so eager to see this happen. Andre, let's see what your position is.
Yeah, I was really excited. I kept reading chat like, who's going to argue about guns? Everybody loves guns. This is like every political panel I go on, most of the time, well, I shouldn't overreach, but like everybody is pro-gun. This isn't like a leftist or rightist thing. I am the only Twitch streamer, maybe not, who is very anti-gun. If you come to my channel, you'll hear anti-gun, anti-meat, soy boy rhetoric. So pop in whenever. Yeah, fuck guns. I thought there were some base opening statements. Huge fan of Jangles, and again, he points out an important statistic. Access to a gun in the home increases the risk of death by suicide by 3 times. You're 300% more likely. Faraday also brings up something important, that like we have to stop saying that like we're going to fight this tyrannical government with our sidearms. This is like silly, and I don't want to argue it, but whatever. I'm ready to have all of these arguments today. I'm excited to have them. I wish Faraday's conclusion was true for me. Police officers don't make me feel more safe. In fact, they make me feel less safe. And I'd like to take the guns from them. Civilians, police officers, I'm disarmament, everybody. If you were my friend earlier and you like guns, we're not friends anymore. You're not on my side. I'm on this team, anti-gun, and I'm ready to argue. Yay.
Andre is not your friend, and he is here to wreak havoc unarmed. Are
we open?
Yeah, we're gonna open it up. I need to go get something to drink, so I'm gonna ask you all to do me a favor. Be nice while I'm away, because you have a Frenchman moderating now, and so you can see how maybe there would be more would be let go possibly in that context.
I don't think it's fair
I'll be right
for
back.
Andre to talk about disarmament when he has those guns stored. And he's the only
Dude,
person.
so not enough compliments. And for context, I work at a mixed martial arts gym. It got closed down. I can fight. I teach people how to strangle each other. Strength and conditioning and Brazilian jiu-jitsu is my shit.
Oh, nice. I teach people how to do push-ups.
Oh, let's fight.
And you want to disarm everyone, right, Andre? Like,
yeah, why not? Who are the
citizens,
people that
criminals,
because
and
it's
cops,
a right.
Yeah.
It's a right.
So
No, this is stupid. This is the worst argument. Because it is my right, I will do the thing. Like that doesn't.
Why would do what? You don't have to own a gun.
Yeah, right.
It's your right to own a gun.
Rights don't exist. Rights don't exist. They're not real.
Okay,
Not
so
real.
then why is the Supreme Court held it up?
Because it's a system. It's something that got wrote down.
Okay, wait. No, you can't say because it's a system.
But it's not. It's not like. But it's not some like inherent thing that you have.
Yes, the Supreme Court has held it up. Yes, it is.
So the Supreme Court can make a metaphysical rule for the universe that says you have rights.
Okay.
No.
Again,
it's all right because it's written on the
Supreme
Constitution,
Court has
and because
ruled
people
that
will let you
we
do
are
it.
allowed to have weapons.
We're not.
I
And you
understand
cannot
that.
see
And we
your
can
argument.
change that.
Your argument. No, okay, we can change that. So now we're going to go. Okay, well, the Supreme Court. Well, the Supreme Court protected Roe v.
We can change that too if we decided to.
Yes.
So wait. Who is we?
The population of the people that are voting for the government.
Okay, so what if it's more right-leaning people? Are you for that then?
No,
no, you're not. That's what I'm saying. It's a political.
But I
issue.
lose. I lose.
Okay, but that's what I'm saying.
I've returned with a new hat
to
be more topical.
Very nice.
It's we don't call
Fucking
911.
gun owners
to be
and their
more
hats.
topical. Okay.
Here's my worry. I think the gun. You ever heard of this a narrative thing, a trope called Chekhov's gun? So it's this idea that if you write a story and there's a gun sitting on the mantle, you best believe by the end of that story that gun's going to be used somehow. Breaking Bad was full of Chekhov guns moments. I'm worried that the 390 million number, that's a huge Chekhov gun, and it's going to result in half of this country getting murdered one day.
Okay, but that's not. Yeah, but that's not going to happen as long as we follow procedures of locking up your weapon, having background checks, and following what most Americans would agree with.
And when the culture war goes hot, a whole side of those people are going to go to their cabinets, unlock the gun, pull it out, load their mag, and get in their pickup truck and go shoot people in the streets because they think that they're trying to destroy their country.
Yeah, you can't pretend that a lot of people don't want to bring their guns outside.
And I hate to throw, and I know I'm throwing that on the right, but that's who has the gun.
Wait. So that's the only people that have the guns is people on the right.
There's leftists too that'll go out into the streets.
No, there's a ton of people on the left that have guns. That the polls show that it's a left and right both agree for owning guns. Like this isn't some issue like the left strongly disagrees with gun ownership. No.
Okay, well then we won't ask her. It'll be a freaking war. Okay.
Well, okay, but where's this war coming at? I don't see. I'm in California. I'm not seeing no war.
So I work at a university, and what we study is political radicalization right now.
Of course.
Okay. The threat vectors for a civil war, the threat vectors for people going out into the streets and start shooting people because they think that one side of the country is trying to subvert the other side. Those threat vectors are at an all-time high. Not to mention, there's a whole bunch of people right now online using social media to stir up political.
They're a bunch of dumb dipshits.
No.
They're a bunch of dumb dipshits.
No, we already know this. So what happened?
Okay.
I'm going to say this.
Okay. When I came here, when I left away, I said everybody be nice. Right when I came back, was not a go ahead to be a rat bastard like LoyalLogic. Okay.
Oh, shut the fuck up.
No, me and Loyal are cool. I'm just kind of bantering with him here, but here's the thing. And in Malaysia. Okay. And I know this is kind of off topic, but it's not. In Malaysia, okay, what they did was they committed a genocide against the Muslim population there. You know how they did it? Yeah. They went onto people's Facebooks and they started creating political propaganda.
Yes,
we already know that right now there are accelerationists, okay, trying to cause a civil war in this country. We have evidence of that. And when that shit pops off, everybody's got the firearms to do it. That's my big concern, and that's why I don't think that these things should be there.
Yeah, but I don't understand. But I don't understand. So
it doesn't matter what side I'm on.
Yeah, I want you to understand though.
The Red Nation is like, he's making this point that it's mostly one person over the other. What side are you telling us we're on?
I mean that's what
I don't know.
saying.
You might not be wrapped up into all this culture war stuff. You might not.
But that's what I'm saying. So, but what I'm saying. But listen, Faraday. You are making a huge distinction from the online world and reality. The facts is that most of the common everyday Americans don't give a shit about 4chan and 8chan and Reddit and Twitter. They don't, dude. Like, I get what you're saying. Listen, what you're saying is 100% valid. You need to take a step back and look at America, what it is. Most people don't give a shit.
Well,
they don't, dude. I'm sorry. They don't.
I gotta step in here. This distinction between online and reality might have been valid 20 years ago. It's not anymore. We're all online. All of us are online. Your grandmother's online. Your uncle's online. Everybody's online. We might not be as invested in like the intricacies of internet politics, but all of us are online.
That's but Jangles, I'm talking about what he's talking about with the 4chans, the 8chans, and the cultural.
No, here's what I'm saying.
Yes, we're online, but we're online.
But wait. How are we supposed to fix the gun problem if the government can't fix anything or will never come to a conclusion to fix it?
So why fix the gun problem if you can't go to college? I get it. I didn't think we were going to go back to it, but yeah.
I'm just saying. He admitted that we can't fix anything.
So
why be into politics at all?
At least listen, Andre.
I also want to say that, like,
but Faraday, I mean, I want you to understand. I get yes, people are online, but dude, most middle-aged women are looking at fucking cat and talking about hairdressing.
Please. Okay, QAnon. Okay, let's talk about QAnon for a second. Okay, QAnon. People used to think, dude, that's some crazy conspiracy theory. It doesn't mean anything. It's nuts. Nobody's going to believe that. We're at the point now where if I go back to my hometown and I start talking to all the local women and all the guys, they're all telling me that there's some pedophile conspiracy.
But it's the same thing with 9/11, though. 9/11 was the same thing. Yes. Change it. But no, but look, listen. The same. I've been, full disclosure, everybody know, like Dylan knows. I've been doing politics since 2003. People said the same thing, Faraday. What you're saying about 9/11, loose change came out. Say, people are going to be going out in the streets. It's going to be a big thing. And guess what? It didn't happen.
Dude,
it didn't happen.
9/11 helped build to where we're at.
No. I'm talking about loose change with it's the government, and it's and people say, it's going to radicalize people, and it didn't happen. It never did.
Loyal, I want you to think about this intellectually for a second. How bad would things have to get before the middle-aged woman who's not involved in politics is out in the street with a gun? Is that a real argument that you just made? It's the fringe that we ought to be worried about. It's the fringe who would be out there shooting people.
So the potential of harm means take away from everybody? The potential?
Sure. Yes. I don't think there's a solution to the gun problem, but we're here talking about like what we believe and what we think, right? I don't think
I'm the fringe. Hi.
I don't think
I'm that guy.
Hi, Redneck, you're not a fringe. So Redneck, you're actually quite reasonable.
I don't know. I'm looking at that hat and I'm seeing a little bit of fringe right there.
I really want to talk about guns and
fuck you, Dylan, with the
or QAnon or ForAnon. LoyalLogic was saying that. Go ahead. Did you want to summarize?
No, go ahead. I was just saying the point is that these things are you can't do anything about it now. If you try to take away the guns, you really will stir up some shit. I mean, you saw how many people went to Richmond. I'm not saying there's a solution, but I'm saying that we fucked ourselves by having all these things in society. And whether you think that like these online conspiracy theories are relevant or not, they're bleeding out into the real world. And if it doesn't matter if you're online, to both sides. I mean, the left is accelerating too.
The same thing happened with loose change and 9/11. There's people holding signs all over America. Inside job.
Okay. Time is linear. Do you think that honestly, and this is real with the 9/11 conspiracies, do you think less or more people are online now?
No. Okay, but my point about the online was But my point about the online was what he's talking about with the 4chan and the 8chan. It was like internet actually.
Do you think people are more or less online now than they were back in the time?
Oh, more online now, of course.
Of course. So do you think that saying that people 20 years ago, like that radicalization that happened online wasn't as a big
But the
deal?
radicalization didn't lead to violence.
Applicable
My
now?
whole point was my whole point was that I'm not saying the radicalization doesn't happen. That was not my point. But the radicalization leading to violence that's escalating to a civil war, that's what I will not agree with.
So can I just, I want to hear what Red has to say, but can I just say, like, Loyal, let's do a stream after.
Yes. Well, you had me up. Yeah,
and
we'll
talk about this, okay?
Okay.
Like, because we're going off topic. Red, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I was gonna say, number one, Jangles, I'm really concerned about you. Seriously, on a personal level, I just met you, but you've already pumped down about 12 cigarettes since we started, and I just hope you're okay. Because
that's fair. No, that's fair. That's a legit concern.
I mean, I was a smoker and a drinker, and I quit a long time ago. CBDs
should I feel
thing.
responsible?
So I'm just saying that.
That's actually a fair and very reasonable concern that you have. I appreciate it.
Keep the light stuff, heroin, tarball, something like that. It's a lot better. Okay. No, guys,
I got the veins for it.
I understand that I've asked this question to plenty of people that believe anti-gun, and so I'll go back to the basic understanding that I have in life. We're all fucking animals, right? So take away guns. Take away any and every weapon you can imagine right fucking now. We still had human beings killing other human beings. And that shit, just because you want to take a weapon doesn't stop that. And if you could give me the magical pill or solution right now that will fix just that.
I got it.
I got it. A perfect answer then. We don't need guns. We can just use other things to defend ourselves.
Yeah,
what's the pill?
But bad people will still find a way to get a gun. Do you not understand this?
We have other things. The answer to the question is because guns escalate violence. They're a means of force.
Wait, so they always escalate violence?
So to use the argument that we shouldn't get rid of guns because we'll just find other ways of killing ourselves is nonsense.
No,
the reason you want a gun in the first place is because it's a means of force amplification. You can make a legitimate argument that a 95-pound woman who's afraid of getting raped ought to have a gun because they can't physically defend themselves against a 250-pound man. That's a reasonable argument to make because guns are a means of force application. But you can't have that argument and also sit there and pretend that, we can't get rid of the guns because we'll just find other ways. No, that's nonsense.
Yeah, I'm so excited to have it. I'm so
excited. Where do most of the gang murders happen with
Okay, Andre, I want to hear from you.
This is the whole reason why I'm here. Lumi didn't show up. At least give me this. Fuck. I only want to have a debate with Jangles right now. I want to have a talk with someone who's honest about gun ownership. All these straw mans and I'm sorry. I hate to be mean to you, Redneck, but we've already had this argument, and you bring the same shitty take. People will hurt each other. It's the worst. It's the worst. People will hurt each other. No, people will hurt each other, so we shouldn't have nukes. It's so
losing the debate nationally. I'm sorry. So nationally, you're losing the debate.
Losing the debate. You think I'm here to win a debate with you or
compromise your public
opinion? No,
I didn't say it on here. I said nationally.
I'm so tired of you fucking interrupting me, and the arguments are so lazy. If at least you're going to interrupt, bring something better than it is my right. I don't care. I don't think this is legit.
Okay, then there's no argument between us.
Stop, dude. Whether a thing is your right or not doesn't mean that you should or should not, ought or ought not. Whether it is morally right, whether it is dangerous. And
wow, so it's morally right.
No, okay. Dude. Holy shit! Shut the fuck up. What?
Okay. Look. I love the Prime Kai imitation there by telling people to shut the fuck up. I love it.
Why did you keep talking?
You know what? I've been thinking. I've thought about that. I've thought that about political commentators forever. So, are you telling me, A4, the worst thing I could possibly do is hand the mic over to Redneck right now?
No, I don't care.
Okay, I'm just fucking with you. Okay, I do want to say you did give you took a harpoon and threw it straight through Redneck. So I do
finish my throw.
Okay, finish your throw and then I got over to Redneck.
Yeah, this is the silliest discussion. Is let's agree on something that is common sense. We have the right to own guns. Yes, that's not the discussion. Also, 97% of Americans are in favor of expanded background checks. Most people are in favor of common sense gun laws. So you repeating that I can have a gun or most people believe this. Yes, I'm with you, dude. We're talking about should you not, ought you not. Is this thing dangerous and should it be owned? Right? But like, can we get to the actual discussion instead of you saying like, I have the right?
Are you ready for it?
Yeah.
I gave it to you, but you didn't fucking hear it. Take away the weapons. I said, take all weapons away.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at you right now. Take everything away in your utopian fucking world and tell me how people aren't going to kill each other still.
No, certainly they will. Certainly they will.
Then what the fuck's the point?
The amount of people who die. No. You asked me what is the point. Allow me to reply. Please, may I? What is the point? The amount of harm. So you said in this discussion today and on my panel that you would like a briefcase nuke. The reason why you are not allowed to have this is because you would do great harm. I don't believe that you should have this weapon of destruction. And by the same line of logic, I don't know that you should really be a gun owner. I think this thing is really dangerous. Yeah, I think it's really dangerous. And I don't know who I trust. I don't know who I trust to have this thing.
But before you take it personally, Redneck, he doesn't believe anyone should have guns.
True.
You want mine? I mean, you want mine? I'll give you mine.
I don't want one either. I don't think anyone.
I'm saying, but see, you come up with these arguments about morality, and I say take the guns and everything else out, and you go, oh well, we'll kill less people. So then I've heard you use that. Hang on, I've heard you use that same fucking argument with those of us that agree to have weapons. Well, how many people do we have to lose before we want this to change? Guess what? You know what the number one killer is in America right now? You know what the number one killer is? Heart fucking disease.
What aboutism again?
So
what aboutism?
What aboutism? We like stats, right?
No, I knew where you were going with this. I don't eat meat. This causes heart disease. Next question. I mean, like, are you saying that, like, yeah, certainly we should avoid things that are dangerous? Yes, this is my stance. You and I are on board. You just have the thing that I think is particularly dangerous that I'm saying that people should not have.
I'm saying that you've trained yourself to physical altercation because of your gun stance, but you could still kill somebody with your bare fucking hands, especially like someone that's of disadvantaged size and or training of you. And when you talk about that, that's actually kind of, I mean, you're already overpowering than somebody else. So you're already a greater threat. If your mind was not checked, your weapons that you have, those big fucking weapons, Jesus, man, we need to reduce those. We got to put limitations on them. You can't work out that much.
Very dishonest argument. Redneck, I'm sorry. This is super fucking dishonest.
No, it isn't. No, it isn't.
It is.
No, it isn't.
Like, just
take
because
the weapons,
we can use other things.
It's the reason you guys are saying ban guns or put limitations because the amount of people that die every year because of guns, right? I'm telling you, it's the fucking.
All right. Do you think it would be a real like? Let's take an extreme example. Do you think it would be a great idea for every person on the planet to have a button that sets off a nuke? I would hope the answer is no. We're taking this.
What was your question again? I got to be honest. I wasn't paying attention to you. Can you restate your question, please?
Do you think that if every person on this planet had a button that they had on them at all times, and if they hit the button, it would set off a nuke? That would be a good thing for us to have. Yes, you do. So you're having a bad day.
Whoa! Wait a second. Wait. What did you just say?
Should everyone have a nuke?
I'm intentionally taking an extreme hyperbolic.
I see that.
All right.
Why, yes, I do. Because if that person said "fuck the world" and they're able to kill that many people, well, then fuck the world.
Oh, so you don't believe in individual rights?
I do. I exactly believe in individual rights. I want to protect them as much as possible.
You literally just said that someone could take away everyone's individual rights with the push of a button.
Hey, Redneck, I want you to understand. Redneck, I want you to understand. Redneck, I want you to understand. Listen, you know I love you, brother. Your extreme fucking position is the problem with the right. I'm sorry. I love you. And then they're extreme. No, listen.
No. Fuck you. I can still man myself. You don't have to steel man me.
I'm not.
He's not about to steel man.
I'm not about to. Let me finish, Redneck. And then their far position on the left is the problem. The problem is, Redneck, I don't see either of you guys moving on your position at all. Like, we should easily be able to come to some type of agreement in the middle. Now, and that's the problem with these.
Oh, I have.
You haven't. No, Redneck, I love you. You haven't, bro.
I said remove all weapons and answer
but
the
that's
question.
not it. But that's not realistic, and you know it. A realistic compromise. Come on.
We're talking about death. The reason they want to limit guns is because of the amount of deaths every year, right?
That's not why I want to limit guns.
Okay,
yeah, I mean, there's
I don't care about the number of deaths every year from guns. I don't think it's that high, honestly.
Yeah, it's not that high. It's not that high compared to other things. Of course not.
What is that?
Especially from legal gun owners. You if you go to legal gun owners, it's not even. It's the people that have guns illegally that are the problem. It always happens.
I do want to bring up the point. I do want to bring up the point that I could do much more damage with this than any gun. I'm just gonna.
Yeah, of course. Now
You get
I
to
mean,
break some hearts.
You did just make me weak in the knees.
It's not about damage done, guys, because we don't care about damage done. Look, we give everybody access to a Facebook advertisement service, okay? Do you know how much damage you can do with Facebook advertising? Way more than you can do with a gun. So it's not that what we care about, okay?
I'm going to say I don't think it really matters how dangerous guns are and how many people get killed. Because, I mean, people want the guns, and that's... Like, I don't think arguing that, guns, like about from a utilitarian perspective about guns is actually going to affect anything, right? Like I want gun rights, even if they are dangerous, even if some people do get killed because of
what about child porn?
What about child porn? What does that have to do
Should people be able to have child porn?
No.
Example is actually even on topic.
Well, like, I don't know. It's just like this weird thing where it's like, I hear this from ANCAPs a lot. It's like, well, we want this thing because we think we have a right to this thing and blah, blah, blah. But like, we cut off people's rights to things all the time. Like if people had anthrax, we wouldn't allow everybody to go buy anthrax.
Yeah, but there's a level of harm and varying degrees with child porn. I think you would agree, Faraday.
I'm throwing out an absurd.
I get your point, but
I think child porn violates the rights of other people, particularly the child.
Yeah, it's not just there's multiple layers of the violation of rights.
I think guns violate people's rights.
Yeah, but it's just two parties, the one that kills and the one that is killed. Like versus child porn, there's multiple.
I don't think me having a gun violates.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
You can make the CP argument work.
Okay,
but I don't
there's
think
multiple parties, because with a gun you can take away a lot more people's rights to just fucking live than with like a knife, you know?
Absolutely.
Well, but I don't.
If somebody has a gun versus a knife, how many people do you think the person with the knife is going to kill versus how many people with the gun in the same amount of time?
Yeah, that's the core argument here. If you're concerned about individual rights, well, someone can have a firearm, which can theoretically kill as many people there are
as many people as they have bullets, right?
Yeah, as many people as they have bullets.
But like,
shouldn't that be like at a certain point you have to realize that like your individual right to own a firearm in which you can take away the lives, the ultimate removal of individual rights of other people should supersede your individual right to own a gun. Like I to be honest,
but I don't have the right to murder people. I'm not asking for that right. I'm asking for the right to have a gun.
Yeah, but how many legal gun owners are? I mean, that's what I'm saying.
You can't talking kill about someone that's illegal.
No, so we don't have. Okay, that's fine. Then you're saying in this hypothetical scenario,
but I'm not.
No one has registered firearms. No one does background checks, and we just get a firearm.
What? Who's saying
that's
that?
not what we're saying.
No, he's just. Well, okay, there is legal and illegal firearms. The legal gun owners are not killing at the rate of a legal fire. That's all my point is.
Cool.
That's all valid, because the reason we have so much gun violence in this country is because there are so many legal guns that people then obtain illegally. If you buy in bulk a bunch of a thing, and that thing is just existing in the public, it's very easy to get that thing, which is physically in the space, to people who were not supposed to get it.
So it sounds like you didn't have responsible gun owners, and they should be penalized. That's something that we could easily fix.
There are, unfortunately, people who are legal gun owners who are not reasonable or responsible. That's why they have the gun show loopholes. That's why they have people who will resell firearms under the table and shit like that to ne'er-do-wells and all these other people who shouldn't have them.
You see,
it is a problem.
Yeah, but I'm not saying I'm in agreement with that. I said at the very beginning for background checks and all that. That's perfectly reasonable.
Yeah, but isn't that one of the problems though? Is that there are people who will pass these background checks and then turn around and scalp their guns to somebody who shouldn't have them.
Well, yeah, but then we should pass some type of legislation saying if your gun is found in possession of a person that's not legally allowed to have it or has committed a crime, you are also.
I'll do you one better. Limit how many guns somebody could own, period.
Well, I mean, maybe. I mean, maybe that's an argument to be had in certain areas. You know, maybe you can have only 2 AR-15s. You can only have 2 pistols. Maybe.
Yeah, I like it in some areas, as in America. That would be great. Like in the area of the United States of America, everyone should only have like maybe 1 or 2.
I know,
guns.
but the problem is, VoiceBox, this goes back to what I said, is that we're not having any compromise from the left and the right. We have extreme positions on both sides, and no one can meet in the middle to finally get some gun legislation passed. It's like my police reform. When I'm talking about it, but still talking about it, we still can't get any comprehensive police reform in this country because there's so much division on the fucking issue.
I don't think that is because of the left and the right. I think that's because of the NRA. I think guns are good business. I think there's money to be made. Oh, you don't think that? You don't think the left and right agree? You don't think gun lobbying is the problem?
No.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
I don't think you need the NRA
interesting incorrect opinion
to make guns to make gun rights popular.
The reason born Americans is the natural right to have a weapon, and that's instilled in our Constitution.
Natural.
The reason that you have gun rights.
And you want to sit here and go, oh, we want to limit the Second Amendment, but that's the very first thing to protect the First Amendment, and then you want to forget about the Fourth Amendment. Well,
Hold on, I need you to answer this because I want you to see if you're going to be honest. Okay, how does the Second Amendment protect the First? I want you to be honest with this. How?
Who's asking me?
I'm asking you. How does the Second Amendment protect the First? And I want to see if you'll give me an honest answer.
So if oppression is happening or your rights that you're espousing gets infringed upon by someone in a violent manner, that's what it's for.
Okay, so you are using those guns.
Me using a Trump sticker. If I had a Trump hat on, a Trump 2020 hat on, and I do have a CCW, so right? I start walking down the street. Someone wants to fucking take it off my head or assault me because I'm wearing it. Do you not think I have a right to defend myself?
No, not somebody
hold on, to shoot them and kill them. I want you to be honest about that. Do you have the right to shoot them?
You damn right. In Minecraft, I'll lay their asses on the fucking.
I mean, it's not in Minecraft. We're being honest here. We're not being.
No. Jangles. I would like to keep my.
Okay, all right. You're right. Okay, sorry.
In the game of life, for that little spinning wheel and those little thick of people that go on the pegs and you kind of drag them around the board. If I along the way get stopped at a tree because some fucking people come out and want to take my car and make my kids get out, I'm pretty much going to leave them at the tree.
I want to go back to the original.
We need to acknowledge that the reason you want that gun is to do the things in Minecraft that we have to acknowledge that are happening in Minecraft for the sake of Dylan.
I use my weapon for more than just my First Amendment protections as well.
Okay.
You said if somebody snatches your Trump hat, this is the punishment for like if somebody snatches my beanie, I ought to. Like it's my right, so I'm.
If you touch me without my consent, or you even I don't care if you leave a scratch on me. I will defend myself.
Doesn't that point to the problem that having these weapons would do? It's force escalation. If you have a firearm, you'll use the firearm.
Well,
if you have a larger firearm, you'll use the larger firearm. If you have a knife, you'll use the knife.
I had to equalize the threat.
Okay, and we would. And so let's say this. Okay, well, let's say take this example. Someone is trying to like take your head off your head and stuff. Depending on what you have, that is going to escalate force. Not depending on what is justified, but depending on what your circumstances allow for. Because introducing a firearm into the equation necessarily increases the amount of violence that is going to happen as a result of that scenario.
You ever thought about violence against the bad person, though. That's good.
Have you ever thought about the assault itself?
Yeah, I have.
But here's what I want to add to that because you just said, Redneck, this is the equalizer. I don't think that somebody taking your hat is nearly as egregious as you blowing their fucking head off in Fortnite.
You don't need to.
God, yeah. I mean, can we move on from it? I mean, you guys are just like all red. It's all Redneck. I mean, there's other people on the panel.
We love Redneck.
It's addressing the point he brought up.
Okay.
Dumb fucking point. I think we all agree. I'll even agree. That's a dumb fucking point. If someone bumps into you, takes your hat for you, shoot him. Redneck, I think, is now regret. He's like, yeah, it's a little extreme. I guarantee.
I've said it's assault. If someone assaulted me,
yeah, but Redneck, you're not gonna shoot him. You're not gonna shoot him. You know this. Come on.
I would have my right to.
Right to, but you're not going to.
Oh, I got this person. Redneck.
That's my point. There is no argument.
I got this person. You're gonna be great friends with. His name is Destiny. I think you should meet him. I'm trying to be.
I really thought we were going there. I really thought.
So I would not shoot someone just for taking the hat off my head, but I would. But if someone was violating my rights and I had to shoot them in order to stop them, then I would. So I don't think at that point it's necessary to get violent with them. I would probably say, hey, give me my hat back or something. But ultimately, if they refuse to do that, then I would be willing to use deadly force to stop them, as with any rights violation. Something wrong with that?
Holy shit. Yeah, there's something wrong with that.
What's that?
It seems like we're going to get into defensive property, which I've been talking about all week, but I mean, like, we can, I guess. I just...
I think we're already
the internet right now. All conversations must narrow down to this topic.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
thank you, Dustin.
If you want to avoid that, then okay.
Thankfully, this conversation gets to end now with ending statements, with 1-minute periods.
Thank God.
So if anybody is thinking to themselves, man, I want this to end, or I want to say something, you both win. Because the ones who wanted to end, it gets to end, and you get to end while no one gets to yell at you. So you get to be the person who uses the pedestal to tell everybody how your idea is correct. Because everybody that's listening to me right now, you're correct. No one else.
You're a scumbag.
Well, thank you.
Are we gonna do the bonus topic or not?
Well, no. The bonus topic is only if we all end up agreeing on something, which did not happen today. Shocker. I'm going to start with... Oh, by the way, Endernax had to leave early because his internet cut out. Ben Shapiro Incorporated was not happy with the mockery. We're going to throw it over to Faraday.
Okay, so my final thing is, look, I agree with Red. You're not going to be able to get rid of the guns. I would like to get rid of them in a hypothetical situation, but my biggest issue is the guns are radicalizing. They have a radicalizing effect on public spaces. This is not good. We need to have a conversation about this. We need to drop this Americanism, skull, fucking Punisher skull gun culture and attitude. We need to drop this because it's putting us at risk. Guns should not be in public spaces. Maybe we can have a conversation about areas which have a lacking of an appropriate police presence. But we need to increase community policing. We need to reform and increase the amount of police that we have on the streets. You want people have jobs, turn them into cops, but turn them into, again, reform the police. But that's it. Like, we can't have these guns in public spaces anymore. The tensions are too high. That's my final statement.
Okay. Next, I'm going to throw it over to the scumbag, the dirtbag, the snaky little weasel, LoyalLogic.
The thing is like I said at the beginning, I'm for expanding background checks. I would like to look at things like the magazine capacities. Let's see if that's viable. But my biggest issue, and it always will be, is that you have far positions on the right, far positions on the left. They'll never see it as a far position, and this is actually what is preventing us from moving forward. Unfortunately, compromise has to be had to get things done in the United States. You might not like that. I'm sorry, but that is how things get done. And guess what? They don't want us to compromise on our positions, and that's where things like the NRA come in and influence. If we were more united as a people on willing to work with each other, come to some decisions, then NRA wouldn't have as much influence because the people would be stronger. We have the numbers to come together, but we refuse to, and it's very sad because I think there's a lot of agreements to be had. I think even Andre would say, yeah, background checks are good. He might not like guns, but if he's willing to give up a little bit and say, yeah, let's expand background checks, let's do something, it's better than nothing. I think Andre would say, something's better than nothing. I doubt Andre's would say, oh, no, fuck it. I don't want to have anything to do with the discussion. Andre's going to at least come to the table and talk about it. So more compromise is good. Let's talk about it. But the far right and the far left opinions in the gun topic is why we're not getting anything done. And the NRA will still have influence over the senators and the people in the House. That's it.
Okay, next I'm going to throw it over to Redneck.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Can you hear me? Not muted?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Very, very good. Hey, everybody, look at this. It's called a screwdriver. I used to carry one of these to school. I used to have to open up my door, but I also was in a gang, and this was my protection. And it could kill. It's a screwdriver. When we want to get serious about guns, you got to get serious about people's behaviors. Nobody wants to address it except when it becomes factually relevant around a gun. A gun is a tool. It's a weapon. Or for those of you that say that there's no such thing as people that were stand up to their government, well, they did it. They've done it many times with weapons. It happened out in Nevada, but we all know how that went, right? Yeah. So if you want to do some history, you can also look at things like our revolution was started with weapons. Yeah, we went against the government then, and it was muskets and all these little single armed, little minute and a half to load and reload. The thought about banning or restricting even more gun control is the reason why America is the greatest, because you can sit there and cry about it all day long, but the reason you're here today to cry is because of a gun. The gun keeps other countries from jumping in and just doing what China could literally do by just bringing a ship over with as many soldiers as they have. They have 3 times the amount of soldiers we have on active duty. They have a population that they could just drop in any time. Red Dawn, which was a movie, which was a joke back in the late 80s, it was fucking like pretty much what they could do. Russia and China could collaboratively come, but the one thing that keeps them from doing it is the 400 million weapons in America. So keep it simple, y'all. I mean, just because it's simple doesn't mean it's easy. Weapons, it doesn't matter the form. Somebody's still going to die. And you guys said you don't care about deaths, so why you care about guns?
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Sir.
Isn't it also the nukes?
Say again?
Isn't it also the nukes? Like the nuclear weapons?
Oh, I mean, Dylan, you know that the nukes weren't there until World War fucking II, so before that it was the amount of weapons.
Which is before the Wolverines.
Well, okay,
I mean,
sorry, I just wanted to
World War One and World War One changed it, right? Nobody would invade us or try to even invade us because of all the weapons we had already. That was always it was always instilled in the military. I mean, you've studied some national stuff,
Doesn't that invalidate the point about
I didn't want to open up a can of worms. I was just curious, and it's my show, so I can override because no rules apply to me because I'm the supreme government. Dictator Burns. Okay, I'm gonna throw it over to Jangles.
Okay. All right. There's a lot of stuff. I was serious at the beginning, and I've kind of maintained this position. Like, I don't know what the perfect prescriptive answer is. Where I'm coming from is that, like, I want to maximize individual rights, but to pretend that doesn't mean that doesn't imply some sort of collective action is nonsense. Other people affect your life. And that's the main problem with this whole, I want to have as many guns as possible because it's my rights. Well, you can use that right to take away the individual rights of other people. So in order to maintain maximal individual rights, you necessarily have to have some sort of collective action. To say otherwise is to be incorrect and is to not understand interhuman communication. And so I fully agree with Faraday when he says that guns are a means of radicalization, they're a means of escalation. They give you they aren't just an escalation of your own personal ideology, they also can impact your ideology, because if you have the means to carry out an action, you're more likely to believe in that action in the first place. That's how psychology works, that's how sociology works. And so, like, to say that the reason you're here is because of a gun is in a certain way true, except for all the people who have died by gun, and the reason they're not here is because of a gun. So we have to acknowledge the negatives that come with our extremely lax gun laws in the United States. I just wish we could do that and not pretend that because it's a right, which again is a social construct, like Faraday was saying, because that means it is intrinsically good or naturally good, as opposed to something that we just made for our society.
Okay, next I'm going to throw it over to VoiceBox.
Well, I think we had a lot of fun here today having this discussion. I certainly did. But in all seriousness, my position is pretty much the same. I do think that having a gun or owning a gun is fine as long as you are a responsible gun owner. As long as we have certain limitations where things are fair and equal, but more importantly, that people are recognizing that having this tool, having this weapon, is something that does escalate danger, and it is something that people need to be very responsible with, because it's human life. We have to be responsible with human life, and we can't just willy-nilly talk about just taking that away from somebody just because it's your inalienable right or whatever. But that being said, I mean, I would like to lower the amount of guns we have in this country, period. I would like to make sure that people who are going to own these guns responsibly are not only trained to handle them properly and store them properly, but again, are just taught what it means to have something like this. The same way we're taught about the value of a dollar and the rights to free speech and all this kind of stuff. I hope people can understand that it's important to really take into consideration that this is not just your life you're playing with here. It's other people's lives. So that's my stance.
Next, I'm going to throw it over to last username.
So I think there's a problem with the way progressives talk about gun rights. I don't think that arguments of the form like you should give up your gun rights because it's good for society are going to be effective. The reason that so many Americans want gun rights is not because they think it's good for society. Even though they may get sucked into arguing that in discussions, I don't think that's what really makes people want gun rights. The reason people want gun rights is because they want guns, right? They want guns more than they want than what they want what's good for society, and I don't blame them. Rights, it's perfectly reasonable to care about rights more than society. So if you want the right kind of argument to make, I think to really change minds on this issue is here's why you should give up your gun rights or compromise a little on your gun rights in this or that way for the benefit of society. Here's why you should do that. Here's why it's in your interest to do that. That is the kind of argument that I think may actually influence people and may connect with them. I think progressives they find something unpalatable about that argument. They're just sort of repulsed by the idea that someone would be so selfish, but that's human nature. That's what we are. We care more about our own rights than we care about what's good for society, and I think it's best to just accept that and work with it. That's my advice about talking about guns.
Okay, and last but certainly not least, A4 Andre.
Yay! This is a fun one. I do this one on my stream a lot, so I'm glad that it was part of the panel today. Dylan, thank you for including it. Just some closing statements that I wanted to address, and then I'll sort of like make mine super brief. Faraday, I think you've been excellent today. Whether I want to get rid of the idea that we cannot do this thing. Whether a thing is like impossible, whether it is difficult, whether it is important, are all very different. If we if all the toothpaste is out of the tube and our bathroom is covered in it, certainly this is a difficult and challenging analogy, but we should try to clean things up. LoyalLogic, I think, everybody's been great today, but LoyalLogic, your framework of the left and right, my position on guns is, I guess I would describe not left or right, but almost authoritarian. I think the idea of removing guns from people could be an authoritarian position, and I don't know that left-leaning people usually agree with me. I don't find this to be the case anyway. Fucking Jangles, dude. I want to debate this dude soon. I think he's crushed it on the panel. I disagree with him. I would love to talk to him about his own gun ownership. I'm almost done here. Sorry. Last username. I would be curious how you would frame the gun argument. I do agree with you, though. I think we have to dispel the notion that we're owning guns to protect our homes. We own guns because they are cool. You don't see people buying home security door magazines or magazines of this nature. It's gun magazines. It is cool. This is okay, for sure. Let's talk about it later. And then just something to piss everyone off. I disagree with Red on everything all the time, forever and ever. America is not the greatest country. And the screwdriver analogy, I think, is completely fucking ridiculous. There's a lot of tools that have purpose and function other than damage or harm or destruction. Screwdriver obviously is for something else. Even cars would be a better analogy because of how many people they kill, but still, I use my car to get to work, not to destroy things. A couple statistics, and I'm all done. I'm sorry for talking so much. Americans kill each other with guns at 25 times the rate of other high-income countries. This is a problem. I think most would agree. Gun violence is estimated to cost the American economy at least $229 billion every year, and every 16 hours, a woman is shot dead by her current or former partner. If you want to argue about these statistics or the harm that I believe that guns do, I'm always around.
Thank you for coming by. I really
love you
appreciate
too.
I love you all. I'll name all of my children after every single one
Fuck
of you.
you, Dylan. Shut
all
the
of them.
fuck up, you
Loyal,
dumb shit.
you'll get
Fucking, what a
Andre
Andre
will get my firstborn son.
Thinking he's better than us.
Okay, Andre, you're gonna get my firstborn son. You better make him to a soy boy or something.
I'm a good dad.
Take him out on weekends. LoyalLogic. You can get, I don't know, a Chihuahua. I'll get a Chihuahua. You can get that one. It's the only one. I mean, or maybe a rat, because you know you can relate to them.
Rats make good pets.
On an
Rats make
emotional
good
level.
pets.
Yeah, I know you would know all about being a rat. Anyway,
Yeah, it takes one to know one, Dylan.
Takes one to know one. Anyway, I appreciate you all coming by. Thanks for spending your Friday night with me. I know it's a special night for everybody, so I really appreciate you spending it with me. You all have a blessed weekend, and all stay safe out there. The world's pretty crazy right now, okay?
I love you guys. Hey, have a great weekend. You guys, Faraday, hopefully hit me up sometime. You guys as well.